March 12th, special meeting. It's now 7:26. We got it. Oh, here we go. Pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll to my right.
Dominic Smirgalino, alternate.
Dominic Panicio, alternate.
Ryan Condon, Commissioner.
Leanne Ambrosi, Commissioner.
Bruno
Wesson, Commissioner.
I forgot to say my name, so Bruno Maini, Acting Commissioner.
Nicole Lupo, alternate commissioner.
Acting Chairman for.
Chuck Anders, Attorney for the Commission.
Kathleen Gallagher, Planning and Zoning Administrator.
Sarah Stroud, Recording Secretary.
The record for this meeting, Dominic Smirgalino is going to be seated, and I'll read the notice.
No, hold on. If there's anybody in public that wants to talk about anything that's not being discussed tonight, please raise your hand. Online or in public?
I don't believe actually we can do this because it's a special meeting, but we can look.
The agenda says general public.
I know.
I don't see anybody. Ryan?
All right. In accordance with CGS 8-70, a public hearing will be held on Tuesday, March 12th at 7 p.m. or soon thereafter via hybrid Zoom meeting with in-person attendees located in Monroe Town Hall. SCP 2023-11, file 1659A, 139, 141, and 201 Turkey Roost Road and 30 Cobblers Hill Court. Special exception permit for proposed construction of 99 single-family detached dwellings served by 5,950 linear feet of driveway located at 139, 141, and 201 Turkey Roost Road and 30 Cobblers Hill Court, Assessor's Map 107, lots 003, 004, 008/1, 008/2, Corey Ridge Associates LLC owner, J. Edwards and Associates LLC representative. Notice was published in Voices twice on Wednesday, February 21st and February 28th.
Thank you, sir. Kathleen, exhibits, please.
Exhibits include Exhibit 8 from the Fire Marshal dated January 23rd, 2024. Planning and Zoning Report dated January 23rd, 2024. Education Consultant Letter by Realty Concepts, Inc. dated January 22nd, 2024. RKG Associates Report dated January 30th, 2024. Traffic Study Letter by KWH Enterprise dated February 7th, 2024. Email by Consulting Attorney Charles Andres dated February 14th, 2024. Police Chief Comment Letter dated February 15th, 2024. Peer review of the fiscal impact by RKG dated February 16th, 2024. Traffic study review by BL Companies dated February 16th, 2024. EMS comments dated February 23rd, 2024. Engineering comments by the town engineer dated March 4th, 2024. Response to comments, revised plans, and additional support material by J. Edwards and Associates with several dates, including March 1st, March 5th, and others received March 8th, 2024. That's it.
For the applicant.
Jason Edwards for the record, J. Edwards and Associates, 227 Stephanie Road, and surveyors. So again, to go over the map, we've got a proposed 99 unit development that's within an existing MFR zone. This was approved in 2003. Originally, the zone change was approved. And then in 2010, the site plan was approved for commercial use, how they term it. So that was approved between 2003 and 2010. Site remediation was done to restore the site to a buildable site from the illegal quarry that it was. We have a proposed 99 units in a loop road here. We've got primary access drives coming from Turkey Roost Road through here and access to the site. We also have a secondary emergency access driveway over here. The plan includes a large amount of open space to be dedicated perpetuity within the MFR zone as well as that's outside of the MFR zone. So it's going to be served by public water and on-site sewage treatment plant. Again, this is response to the planning and zoning's comments regarding P and Z comments in general are in black, and the responses are in blue. This is the first comment, and these are all the same comments that are in the written packet. The format to present. This is regarding the differences between the original site plan approval, which is actually 2010, not 2003. 2003 was the zone change approval. 2010 was the actual site plan approval. So the differences here are in red and green. The red was, deleted and moved. Green is what is new. So you have essentially the same design, or exactly the same design around the perimeter, and the modification being in the interior. The septic areas are shown. The existing approved septic area is in red. That does lie in the RF2 zone, which is outside the MFR. And these units, leaching fields are both in the MFR and out of the MFR. Again, that was approved for construction in 2010. DEP has approved this red portion of the septic area here. The rest is under review now. In final design. This is really more for attorney to address, but it's regarding the impact of zoning changes that previously approved. Applications or permits, how they would be impacted if they were changed after approval. This is just a question on if we are changing the zone boundary or if we are creating a split zone lot. Proposal is to create one large lot that encompasses multiple zones, so we would have a split zone lot. We would be merging parcels and dividing lot lines to accomplish that. We did also provide new open space density calculations. There were some questions on our calculations there. We did find mistakes, so we corrected those, and we're now providing more open space than we originally were. As you see here, the box hatching is the open space outside of the MFR, and single lot hatching is the open space within the MFR. This was the area down here that was questioned, and that was misappropriated as the MFR open space, so we added some here. It's now conforming. This is again a reference to the building envelope and what stage of architectural design we are at now. We are providing this building dimensions and footprint and envelope that we must adhere to, or whoever building the home must adhere to when they come in for a building permit. So it provides the setbacks, the building space, and coverage, the height, stories, square footage. All that is provided and provides essentially a box for which the developer can then come back with the building permit down the road. The same model is used in other developments in town. I don't believe the level of detail that's requested here is probably not at the point for that, in our opinion. It's not something we're ready to provide. But we have provided, some models that we think are similar to what will be built here. These all fit that envelope. There's 3 different models, roughly 3,000 square feet, some a little more, some a little less. 4-bedroom homes, 2-car garages, driveways in front, different finishes and configurations. This is our clubhouse. Again, it's going to be something similar to this, but this is not the exact. These are just some area renderings. Conceptual view of the neighborhood. Okay, I'm going to continue past this again. Chris would be here by now. He probably was waiting. This is the, back to the PCA comments. Staffing requirements, there's no full-time staff proposed at the building, the treatment plant, or the clubhouse. DEP permit requirements, the association will have to hire a licensed treatment plant operator. That will be on call 24/7, and the plant will have remote connected, will be remotely connected to his office for monitoring remotely, and they'll be coming out as needed, maintaining the facility. Residential units, we don't have a definitive answer on that yet. Gas or propane is probably the most likely, but electricity is also an option. Gas is we're in talks with them now, but we don't know for sure what's going to happen. Treatment plant, for the DEP permit, we're going to have a generator there, to maintain that, or run that, should power it out. The plant designers have provided information, and we have a 30 kilowatt need for a generator. So based on the 1,000-gallon propane tank that we're proposing, the generator will consume 100 gallons of propane per day, which will provide 10 days of use of full capacity. We think that's a good number, solid amount of time for the power to be restored. I don't recall too many power outages that have gone on from that. And there's no reason in that period that they shouldn't be able to get a propane delivery if they need one. Again, this all gets ultimately reviewed by DEP. They get the final say in the permit. It's generally what will be there. We do have a portion of this fully approved. That's going to be in for modification for them before we're setting up. Traffic management plan for the water main extension. That's a DPW permit, Department of Public Works. So we will have to provide that to them when we're ready to do that. It's not a planning and zoning permit. We provide just general traffic notes that we would have on that type of plan. Provides the kind of standards, kind of working notes and instructions that will have the details. But that will be in the end dictated by me. Yeah, this is on the open space. The way we interpret this is that the open space can be passive or active in this zone. Active meaning could be used for swimming facilities or golf or tennis or other recreational activities. But a minimum of it must be 14%, must be at a minimum must be passive. If you've got 100% passive, we're not proposing any other being used for recreation areas at this point. This is this school busing. There's a concern that the request was that we provide a sidewalk access to and from the development. From the development in terms of use the bus stop and bypass lane. We talked with the superintendent and learned that school buses do enter other private developments in town, including Northbrook and Great Oak Farm. Ages, somewhere elementary to middle school as well. And there's some general statutes here regarding the requirements and what the Board of Ed can provide. They are allowed to direct the bus companies to enter onto the private property. So being the private property agrees to it, they have certain other insurance requirements. So the road network has been designed, to accommodate the school bus without any trouble. We feel that this clubhouse area would be a very good spot for a communal school bus pickup if that's what they decide to do. There's a parking lot here that's, parents can come and park, drop the kids off, get picked up and go. It wouldn't create any traffic issues or, issues here at all from a blocking the road standpoint. The other alternative is they could travel the entire loop and pick up kids at any street or somewhere else throughout. They can make it all the way through. And this is from the Board of Ed contract with the school bus company that goes through 2027. It does provide them Board of Ed with the discretion to direct the bus company, pick up the children wherever they see fit. These are technical items with drafting. Existing structure, there's one barn that's going to remain. General dates, it's too early for us to give you real precise dates, but we are going to say that we're hoping to be done by 2030. 6.5, 7 years. This is fire truck movement through the site that was requested, and we did provide that. And make it through all the cul-de-sacs, and they can make it in and out. Fire chief, fire marshal, we knew that that was him, and he didn't have any problems with that. This is regarding the secondary emergency act. We were asked to provide some more information on this as far as is it passable. The fire engine can make it through here. That's the standard Monroe fire engine that we show there. This is a steep driveway. It's 15%. It's not anything too out of control. It's not. Some towns that's allowed for a residential driveway. Monroe it's grandfathered, so it's. Emergency access road to the gate, and I met myself and my staff met with the police chief and the fire marshal last week. We came to a resolution that they didn't want a full access driveway, but they also did not want they didn't want gates on the driveway, I should say. They also did not want a full access driveway. They wanted something they get into. They didn't want to have anything slowing them down if they came in. Because the police are sometimes the first emergency responders, and if they don't have bolt cutters with them to cut the key or block or something, then they get slowed down. So, so we agreed to remove the gate, and then directly thereafter, I met with the town engineer who wanted to have some sort of a deterrent from people driving in and out. So we had come to a proposal that town engineer and police fire chief still have to give final review on, but what was discussed, it's a plastic breakaway chain by the road turkey roost by that entrance. And that would not even be locked, they would just be on a hook, so it could also just be taken off if they wanted to. And then a curb that would be installed up at the cul-de-sac up here, so that people would be less likely to just drive right in here. And I believe this, you wanted also this first section to have gravel or grass pavers or something, so it wouldn't be an obvious driveway. So we were fine with that, but it's subject still to final review. Yeah, this was the center island and the cul-de-sacs. We were asked to remove those, so we did. The exception of the clubhouse, which, based on our meeting with the fire marshal, he was okay with that. So that's back to where I was. So again, the site here it was mined, and then it was restored. So as part of that restoration, there was more blasting done. There was a lot of grading done, material moved around, all based on the same, essentially the same conceptual grading layout that we have now. That same circle, the same elevation. So we know where more so than in most sites, we know where the depth of the ledge is here. Because after they did that, they also went back and dug hundreds of test pits through here, surveyed those, measured the depths of those. We have a very solid sense of where that ledge is. There's really two areas that we think there could be some blasting, and that's in here and over in here. That purple line is 500 foot from the basically this limit disturbance for the project. So there's very few, if any, houses that are within that. There's one here. This one's close, but the blasting is way up here. So within the actual proximity of the blasting, it would be probably this house here. But everybody else is quite far away. And there's not much considering the size of this project and the 199 acre MFR zone. This is a very small area that we have to be concerned with. We were also asked to do an analysis of the excavation of the materials and how they're going to be used on the site. So I know this is very difficult to interpret here, especially at the scale. But we did come up with, we had a net of 5,612 yards of fill that we would have to bring in the end to finish it. So everything we are going to be excavating and processing on here is intended to be used on here. We're not taking anything off. I can guarantee that there's not going to be something that gets taken off, but there's no intent to move anything off site here. Cross section, we had run through it to show our work on this. we spent some time analyzing it from up to the south. And, yeah, this is our phasing plan. This was in the last go around. I don't know that we made any changes. Yeah, that was the one comment I wanted to make. Yeah. The last time we were here, there was a question on when we were going to clarify, we're going to do all the blasting up front. You know, anything that we find that needs to be blasted is going to be done up front, and we're going to, you know, not do any more once we start house construction. So we're going to go in and do all the infrastructure first, and then start on house. Brings the traffic. I don't know if you want to jump back to your stuff. Okay. I'll get back to the spot. Okay.
Chair, members of the commission, Chris Russo, Russo is the LLC. Here on behalf of the applicant. Sorry for my delay. I've been listening in since the meeting was morning, so I've heard all. So what Jason is going back to is there was a question regarding whether this was considered a dead end. And typically, this is most towns, real roadway standards are generally contained in your subdivision regulations, how you define streets, roads, and how they're characterized. And the same is the case in Monroe. And this definition that you see up there is pulled out of your subdivision regulations that talk about dead ends. And they're defined as streets which are closed at one end by a building line, ending in a turnaround. And the term, is it the next slide?
Yeah.
Just go like that. Okay, there we go. And a turnaround actually has its own definition as well. And I won't read it exactly, but basically it talks about dimensioning. And so we do not have, and I'll point this out here. Okay, yeah, that's perfect. The roads that are in purple have turnarounds per your definition. So, but those do not exceed the maximum that you have in your regulation for number of lots on those turnarounds. And those are the only ones that would meet your definition of a dead end street or turnaround. So, but the main road does not meet the definition. It's just a loop road. And therefore it's not a dead end street, and it's something that you find in a number of other developments. Actually, they don't have loop roads like we do, but these roads, what you see here in orange, are not considered dead ends. So this is Hills of Monroe. There's 187 homes there. That orange road is not a dead end street. It's the other purple roads that would be considered a dead end street under your regulations. This is Great Oak Farm. It's a little more similar to our design in that it has this kind of loop road that brings you all the way around. But there are dead end streets within it, but the major loop road is not considered a dead end street, and therefore doesn't have that restriction on the number of units. Sorry. Well, and that's the other thing that I was going to point out, and I'll show you the third one, which is the development on 127 Main Street. Similarly, this is not considered a dead end street. It just doesn't meet your definition. It doesn't have the turnaround that you have in your subdivision regulations. The difference we actually have with these other developments, two of them don't have loop roads like we do. And none of them have a secondary road like we do. So we have beyond what these, and I mean, you know, some of these approvals are very recent, obviously, where these have not been found to be a dead end street. And I think I'll point out, which I know Jason has stated and will probably state multiple times tonight, this regulation has already been interpreted by the commission when this was originally approved. It was the same layout. The only addition is, Jason, I don't know how close that, the 9 lot, the addition of 9 lots. But again, that's on a road that is compliant with that restriction. So this has already been interpreted by this commission that this is not a dead end street. The site plan was approved. We haven't changed a condition from that original site plan approval that would make it non-compliant. We've just added a dead-end street that is limited by it falls within the restriction on the number of lots. I think it's only 9, right? I think it's only 9.
Yeah.
So we're below the restriction. So yeah, that was just on that particular issue.
Split zone.
Is it the slide up? Let's see. So there was, I'll just go through some of the other comments that were zoning specific. One second, please. So the first was with regard to the location of the septic in the RF2 zone. Section 1.9.3 speaks to single lots and split zones, which by the inherent language acknowledges that split zones are in the town. And in fact, they're common in Monroe. There's a lot of split zone lots, particularly on Main Street. There are a number of lots that are fairly deep, where the commercial district is near the road, near Main Street, and the back half of the lot is in residential. And that the benefit of that is it provides a buffer because usually there's residential neighborhoods behind those lots. So there's those residential neighborhoods, but then there's a residential zone on those Main Street properties that buffers them from the part that's commercial, that's right up along Main Street. But specifically with regards to the septic systems, so you do have a definition for structure in your regulations, which includes anything constructed or installed under the ground level, or something that's connected underground. So it is considered a structure, but the use of septic systems, you don't have that as its own use. It's not a use that you list as a separate or even an accessory use. So it's not a commercial zone, it's not in a residential zone. It's just that's an improvement that goes along with the use. And in your regulations, it makes a specific comment that there's residential districts and there's commercial districts. And there's multiple locations where it divides. There's one area where it just lists them. It says residential districts. It has RF2 and MFR district. That's under one. And then it has all your commercial districts in the other zone. And the bulk standards, they're split between the residential districts and the non-residential districts. And what your regulations state is that no portion of a lot in a residential district shall be used for any surface or subsurface principal or accessory use or structure on a lot or portion thereof in a non-residential district, except subsurface line connections to public utilities. We don't have that situation here. There's no commercial district involved. It's just residential. And so your regulations allow that. There's a similar provision regarding driveways. That you can't share them. You can't share it. Yeah, there you go. There's the 1.8.1. You see residential districts, MFR, RF2, they're all under residential districts. Then you have your non-residential districts. So under regulations, if it was a B1 zone and you had the septic in an RF1 zone, that would not meet your regulations. Though I have to say there's a lot of properties in town where there's septic that's in a residential district supporting a commercial property. But what the regulation specifically says here is that if it's within, they're all within residential districts, that's okay. It's if it's from a non-residential to a residential. And again, repeating myself, but this is a regulation that was already interpreted by the commission and it was approved because in the previous site plan review, the septic, the leaching system, I should say, the leaching fields were in the RF2 zone and it was approved in that separate zone. So, because it's not contrary to the regulations. I know there was a case that was referenced last time. I looked into that case. The big difference with that is basically what I've been speaking about. That was a situation where there was a property in a commercial zone that was getting supported by a septic system in a residential zone. And so it's just completely different than the facts that we have here. If there was a regulation that said you can't have it in any other district or something like that, that would be different. But that's not what your regulations say. It's just non-residential, residential, and it makes clear multiple times what zones are in the residential district. So that's with regards to the septic. And I would just reiterate, there's no change conditions regarding location of the leaching fields in the RF2 zone from what was previously before by the commission. That we have not changed that condition. That was there previously. There was a question about the differences between the DR and the MFR. And if our client had been a part of that, that was part of a whole zone rewrite that, excuse me, the town carried out. And it changed the regulations and it changed all the zones. And so my client was not involved in that. The differences between the two were not that substantial. A lot of it was modernizing. There was like the old regs, there wasn't recycling back then, or at least to the extent there is now. So there were provisions added in with regards to recycling. Most importantly, between the DR when this originally was approved and the MFR, the standards, the density, the size of the parcel, frontage on a public highway, the setbacks, the height, the coverage, the design of the buildings, that's all the exact same between the DR and the MFR. So that didn't change at all. And you know, it also speaks to the fact that this site was rezoned in the same zone that for those standards. It wasn't moved to a less dense zone. It wasn't changed at all. The standards that applied to it stayed the same. And this level of development, you know, in that would be expected because it was zoned MFR. These are the MFR regulations, and we're coming in under that. There was a comment with regards to affordable housing, and the first response is that, you know, the zoning regulations don't require a percentage of proposed housing to be affordable for this development. So the application is completely in compliance with those regulations, and I don't think it can be required to provide affordable housing. Still, with regards to affordable housing, for sale developments are very difficult vehicles for affordable housing. And they can end up trapping the person that affordable housing is most intended for, which is the person who requires the affordable housing resident. And it puts them in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. And I'll explain. What the affordable housing regulations do is they try to control your cost of living. And basically it comes down to they want, whether it's you're renting or paying a mortgage, that it constitutes 30% of your income to be able to afford this place that you live. That's how the rent numbers are that's how the rent numbers are determined. That's how the for sale prices are determined. And the difference is with a rental, the affordable unit renter, tenant, has much more certainty as to what their cost of living is, because they get a controlled rent that includes everything as their cost to living there. So their utilities are included, so they know that. If there are utilities that aren't included in the rent, the formula actually makes you deduct for how much you could rent it so that you are able to afford those utilities. So you really know exactly, all right, this is going to cost me $1,200 a month. And I know if I pay $1,200 a month, I'm going to get these utilities. I have enough money left over to pay for the utilities that aren't covered in my rent. I know that I have a place to live. There's some apartments will sometimes have bonuses or extras, like extra parking or covered parking or extra storage unit, but that goes beyond your living situation. You know, all right, I'm going to pay $1,200 a month. This is my cost of living to live here. On for sale, it's much different. The price you pay to buy the unit is controlled. So for instance, let's say it's $250,000. So you know, okay, I buy this unit, it's going to cost me $250,000. I can afford that based on my income, and you're going to purchase the unit. What it doesn't control is the fees that could be associated with for sale ownership that come up. So for instance, in a development like this, there's going to be HOA fees. And on top of that, there could be special assessments. So you have in this case, you would have 99 unit board. And that board could go and vote and say, we're going to turn the roads to cobblestone. We're going to add a pickle. We're going to, add a dog park, something like that. They could come to that decision, they could vote, and they could approve it. And then a special assessment is assessed. And that goes against both the market rate owners and it goes against the affordable unit owners. If the affordable unit owners don't pay that special assessment, they are in default. So they could get this great house, they can afford the price to come in, but then when it comes into the cost of living, unlike the rental, it's very different. And there are costs, additional costs that are associated with it that they could have trouble with. Now, the damned if you do, damned if you don't, the other part of it is on the other end, you also trying to think of the diplomatic word. You're challenged on when you sell the unit. Because let's say they come out with an assessment, the association votes on it and they vote an assessment, everybody's got to pay $5,000, $10,000 assessment. And let's say it's for a pickleball court, swimming pool, whatever. All the market rate owners can sell their units and they could bump up the price to by $50,000, whatever the market calls for, and say, well, you have access to a swimming pool. And now I paid for this, now you have the benefit of a swimming pool, so I'm going to charge more when it's the market. Not the affordable unit owner, because their resale price is controlled. So it doesn't matter if they put $100,000 into it. They can't recoup that money on the resale. So you might have a situation where an affordable unit owner, maybe after they purchased the unit, they were able to get old, they had $10,000, they could afford to do it. So they would pay the $10,000, but then that wouldn't affect the market price of their unit. Their unit is still controlled. So they're in a trap essentially. And what the kind of perverse thing about it is that it almost disincentivizes you from investing in your unit because you cannot recoup your investment in the unit. You can't do anything to change the price of your unit when you resell. That's all controlled. And that's why for sale ownership for affordable units, you do not see a lot of it. I know I just actually did this at Fairfield. Fairfield has had a number of residential developments, a lot of apartment developments. They have 2 units that are for sale affordable units in the entire town that are restricted affordable, and that was part of a legal settlement. So I understand there's obviously in this commission has tried to obviously address affordable housing, but it's when you have a for sale product like this one in the way that this would be set up in a homeowners association, it can really create difficulty for an affordable unit owner. It's not required by the regulations, but I just wanted to add that. Because it is something I've seen a lot of. And again, just in Fairfield, we were discussing it, and it is challenging. With that, I think I will go back to track. The question, Commissioner?
No, it's no question. Keep going.
Thanks for the opportunity to be here again. For the record, my name is Lee Kavan. I'm a principal engineer at SLR. We do the traffic, we represent traffic in this project. I'd like to thank BL for a thorough and professional review of our study. It's always good to have, you always welcome a third party peer review. They had 21 comments on our report. I'm not going to be responding to all of them. I'm not going to bore you all with every single one of them since they are all technical. I just gonna discuss it specifically, talk about two of the things, two of the comments. Comment number 3 was they asked about the large difference in SLR's counts versus the connected DOT's counts collected in 2022 during the AM peak hour. And that was at the intersection of Jockey Hollow and Camden Road. We went and checked the difference was an error during the compilation and development of the figures, compilation of the data. And how it worked was specifically, it was only counted only half hour of the peak hour factor, peak hour. And that actually affected the peak hour factor as well. So we went ahead, we checked the whole entire study again, the intersection. That was a isolated location. It was only on that area and then only during the AM. We fixed that. We ran the analysis over and we revised the level of services. The other comment that stands out was phasing. As as Jason mentioned, they felt that BL felt that phasing was very aggressive and conservative. So, and they're right. It's going to take about 6 years, 6.5 years to build. So we went back and changed the design year, completion year to 2030, and we did do distribution over again and assignments and analysis, and we did revise the tables. There were a couple of comments regarding the secondary access roads. I think Mr. Edwards addressed those, and there was something else about school buses and I think that was addressed previously. So that's presented. Oh,
Yeah, one thing I would note, commissioners, too, is I saw the police chief wrote in comments and, taking a conservative approach to calculating this traffic. The police chief cited a study where actually the speeds that they found were lower than the speeds that we use in our study. So we took a very conservative approach in calculating this.
also the counts.
And then the counts, yeah.
And the counts were, ours were more conservative than yours.
In the access,
Right.
looking into the access.
How did they structure theirs? How did they do their?
Well, they took account for 10 days period. So ours was 24 hours. And ours was like almost 900 and something. And their count was averaged up to about 800 per day, so we're showing more conservative approach.
And then did you speak on the accidents about which
Well, the accident, I mentioned it last time, the accident, almost all of them were single car accidents, either whether they hit a fixed object or an animal on a thing, so it's not the project that causes that, that's the road.
It's not traffic related, it's not because a turn lane is dangerous or there's something like that, they're single car accidents.
Driver usually is a
Distracted. Well, it's not two car accidents, they're only single car, I mean, they were almost all single car accidents.
I think there was one side story.
Over what period of time?
I'm sorry,
Over what period of time are we talking about?
we're talking about 5 years.
5 years?
Did a 5-year period and there was 17 accidents throughout the 5 years. And not on a Turkey Hill Road, but on a Fan Hill Road.
Turkey Roost Road,
Turkey Roost Road, right, Turkey.
Turkey Hill's a nice ice cream.
That's exactly, that's what it happens. Fan Hill Road and Turkey Roost Road intersection, Fan Hill Road and Elm Street intersect, that's far off the, our project site. There were, about 4, angle accidents. But the majority of the accidents were single vehicle accidents, so.
The point being, it's not people pulling out their driveway and getting hit, it's not somebody crossing a lane and getting hit by another car. It's, I mean, I'm sure if we looked at maybe the numbers pre-cell phone, that might indicate some of the difference there, but I mean, you know, so, it's a safe road and the addition of more vehicles, we don't think will change drastically change or impact the number of accidents. Chair, I don't know if you.
No, I'm just
Absorbing it all.
taking it in. There's a lot of wow, but go ahead, keep going. By all means, don't let me stop you.
No, I think that's it.
Do your business. Anything else? Who's next?
We start, I believe, talking guest about EMS the last time.
Name and address for the record,
Stanley
please.
Gazdowski, Realty Concepts.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry.
No worries.
Here's your response to that. And in the interim, we did get a letter from the final attachment.
Thank you.
Okay.
2 seconds.
All right. Went back, looked at the peer review and I appreciated it. I did an original report on November 2nd, 2023, as of October 15th, 2023. There was another report, January 22nd, an alternative development analysis that I did, which included the absorption. I then did took a look at the peer review that was dated February 16th from RKG. And did some reminders. I want to give you some reminders and updates from the original report that I did and to answer some questions that were in the peer review. One of the things we have to look at is, one of the questions was the pricing of the units. And one of the things we have to look at is what the labor participation rate is and what the employment factors are. And if you take a look at the numbers up here, I gotta look at this. I gotta put my glasses on. I'm sorry. If I could see it here. Okay, if what we're looking at here is the labor participation rate and the percentage of people that work, and there's a high percentage of people that work. So there's demand, and one of the things we have to look at is to see based on the demand, is the supporting income for the type of project that we're looking at. The answer to that is yes. So that's what that addresses. One of the things we wanted to look at also was population growth. And there's slower growth in the nation's population, but there's also slower growth in Monroe's population. Not exactly the same, but it is trending the same. So we're looking at two things when we do these analyses. We're looking at trending analysis, and we're looking to forecast in the future. A lot of the data that we develop when we do these type of reports is retrospective. It already exists. So I could go back 3 years and find numbers that will blow my numbers out of the water. No question about that. But you have to take the trend up to this point in time and look into the future based on the lifestyle and based on the demand that will be coming in the marketplace. And one of the things I looked at was Monroe's population growth. And here's a population trend analysis. This is just for Monroe. And you can see that the upper right-hand corner up here, that the population is dropping. That was refined a little bit. And what I also did, I took a look at a current trend analysis. This is Esri data that I used. And you can see for 2023, we have a population of about 18,543. They're projecting it's going to drop to about 18,105. That's a drop of about 430 population at that time, 0.48%. There is some other data out there that projects farther out into the future that shows it to continue to decline, but it wasn't as definitive as this was. So first of all, we're having a decline of population. Why am I doing this? Because it has an impact on the demand for school-age children. That's why. I found the recent report that just came out. Again, this is my original report, and this is the birth rates. Women are having children at a later age, and there are fewer children being born. And this was in relationship to the income levels that are out there. And the income levels that I used here were, I can't read that, believe it or not. This work, is this a touch screen? No, that's not, I can't see that. Let me look at my report. Yeah, I can't.
I got 100 to 149.
Yeah, 100 to 149, and the second one down is what?
150.
159, and you can see that there's been a drop from 2017 to 2019. It's gone down, the population has dropped. This was some other data. This was in the original report on page 29, showing the, again, the fertility rate, number of children, how the number of children, the birth rate is, the age of the women has been risen, and they're having children later in life, and there are fewer children being born. This is a more recent data. This is what I did just this month. This is Monroe. This is your population, and you can see it's declining. Unit pricing, the market value that I provided in the report, my original report, November 2nd, was our original report is on page 100. I stated in there that the market value was provided by the developer. It was in the report already. Someone questioned where did it come from, the peer review questioned that. Following page is analysis of the market under contract for 4-bedroom single-family units in Monroe, and it's a 1-month look back for February. And when we looked at that, I compiled the data. These units were sold, but up on the top here is the combination of under contract, okay, down here under contract, and active listings. And one of the things I was trying to project was what would be a listing price or an asking price for the property today if the market analysis was done. The developer used the market analysis that he had. And when I did that update, what it clearly showed was the following. It clearly showed that the average price per square foot had a mean of about $308 a square foot and had a median of about $303. So what I did on the top row, I used $300 a square foot for each of the proposed units that we had. And that gave us market value of, and I gotta get closer because my eyes are going bad, 993,000 to up to 978,000 would be the price projected today. Now, when the developer goes into the market, will he use that price? No, he might come in a little bit lower. But the 800,000, what I'm trying to say is the $800,000 market value price that I used in my report is a conservative number. It's lower than what's probably in the marketplace today. If he had the first unit out for sale, it would probably sell for more or be on the market for more than $800,000. Personal property taxation. Well, in the report that RKG did, they use a much lower assessment value. I called the assessor, I talked to him, and the market value that he told me, and if you take the assessment and gross it up by 0.7, the market value was $19,217. So I went back in my report, instead of using the $22,000 that I had from several other sources, I started using, and I did this analysis, the updated analysis, I used 19,217. This way, there's no question. That number was verified by your assessor. School-age children. RKG did not mention in my November 2nd report on page 97 that I had 70 school-age children. There's three categories of children you have to look at. School-age children, that's the gross number of school-age children, right? The second is public school-age children, those that go to public school. And the third is private school-age children. In my original report, it states in the data that on a national average, about 8% of the population go to private schools. The propensity in Fairfield County is that or maybe higher. So what that number of 64 that I had was the public school-age children, but I had 70 school-age children in total, which was that's the combination of public and private school-age children. For my analysis, I said, well, let's assume that none of them go to private school. So in the new revised analysis that I did, I used 70 school-age children. And I still think that's going to be the number. And we'll get to that point in a moment to support that. So the National Association of Realtors came out with a report late last year, 2023 profile of home buyers and sellers. And this is from page 2 of the report. Number 1, first-time home buyers profile rose to 32%. So 32% are new home buyers, first-time home buyers. The other fact is the median age, 36, indicates first-home buyers delay their purchase. In other words, when they start purchasing at a later age, they're waiting because they don't have enough money for a down payment or the price of housing is going up. So that median age went up to 35. It was lower than that in previous years. The other point is the median household income on a national average is 107,000, one up from 88,000. Your median income here in Monroe is much, much higher than that. And that's in my reports, and I stated that before. Married couples purchasing a home were 59%. We had single females purchasing a home for the first time with 19%. Single males was about 10%. And buyers that had children under the age of 18 was about 30% of those home buyers. So to assume that in the 99 proposed units at this proposed development are going to have, each unit is going to have a school-age child in it is highly unlikely. There's a reasonable degree of probability, about 30% of them will have school-age children, okay? Then there's some other data that we have to look at, okay? Add that when we get to that. So then, 14% of home buyers purchased a multi-generational home. We have a multi-generational project that we're proposing. It's not only for young adults with children to buy. It's for older adults. And you'll see the data that's coming up to support the fact that about 30% are going to have school-age children, okay? 36% of first-time home buyers reported having at least one child under the age of 18 living at home, a substantial decline from 44% last year. So the trend, if we go back, the trend is going down. There's fewer school-age children in the homes today because the families are smaller. Monroe has an average household size of 2.76. That's higher than a lot of municipalities surrounding. Okay. This is some information relating to the profile of the home buyers. It talks about what percent are in each of the categories for the home buyer. We have those that have one child, about 11%, two, about 12%, three or more children, about 5%, and no children, about 70%. This is some more data from the Realtors report. If you look, this is first-time home buyers versus second home buyers. You can see that it's clearly demonstrating that those that have one child is about 18%, two children 12%, and three or more children 6%. Okay, those with none is up there about 63, 68%. This was a pretty interesting fact that I found, is that the percent of young adults aged 25 to 34 living at home is about 15%. You know, it's a lifestyle change. And they can't afford to live out in the marketplace today. They can't afford an apartment, they can't afford a home. They may want to save money. Where do they go? You know, they go home. When my kids went to college, I changed the locks. I mean, I just wanted to make sure that, you know, we had some private time to ourselves. But the whole thing is to keep in mind, now we're talking 30% that have school-age children, about 15% are people coming back home. And some other facts that we need to look at is down here. This was another report, one public school child for every 3 homes. This was done in 2020. And they had a section in the report that clearly addressed the state of Connecticut. He studied the state of Connecticut. And into new construction, okay, into new construction, it's about 3.63%, 0.363 ratio for school-age children in the home. So that's another piece of substantiating data for a lifestyle change. Okay, lifestyle is an important thing. Everything is based on lifestyle. Children moving back home. The other thing we have to remember, that we also have adults. We have people that, yeah, their kids have gone off on their own. They're college or married, but their aging parents come and live with them. And that is a trend that is increasing today more than it has in the past. This chart just takes the lifestyles and it breaks it down into the percent of the population, the household size, the median age, median household income, the labor participation rate. We want to make sure people are working, they can afford to live there. The median net worth, what percent own, what percent rent, the housing type, and with the market values. Now, those market values that are up here on the top part that are in black, that's the national average. What's down here, and let's just say 2023, not 2024, data, but I just did the report now. That's what's happening right now. And there's Monroe in purple. And you can see that Monroe has a median home value of $428,000, and you have a net worth of $668,000. That's your median net worth, which is much, much higher than a lot of the reports that we've been looking at. Another thing is lifestyle is having an impact on the number of school-age children, like I said, that may live in the proposed residential development. Again, the proposed intergenerational residential development will be comprised of about 35 to 40% of the units with school-age children. That's inclusive of those that may go to private school. Okay. The balance of 60% will be intergenerational with adult children moving home, parents with their, living with their adult children, and other living arrangements. Like I said, for my report, I upped it from the 64, and I assume every child is going to go to the public schools, about 70 school-age children, public school-age children. Again, RKG used a SCROG report that had a ratio that was close to what I had, but I had 70, they had 7.8. But the problem is, it's done in southeastern Connecticut, which is New London County. And the difference is that the lifestyle is different, the home values are different, median net worth is different, everything is different. But it was an indication that they used, that's what they found, that's what they used. But again, I just wanted to point that out. That's on the eastern part of the state. You have to look at the western part of the state. Fairfield County is very unique, and it has to be looked at in its own set of data. Can't compare it to something that's not comparable to Fairfield County. Great Oak Farm, you brought that up. Yeah, it's comparable to what we're doing. It's a 0 lot line unit complex, but there are only 48 4-bedroom units. Where did I get the data? I got it from your town assessor. The assessor gave me all the data for all the 150 units that are Great Oak Farm. Okay, so there's 48 units at Great Oak Farm. An estimate 20, what I did was I took their assessment that they had from the last assessment. Now you guys are going through a reval right now. And you say, well, how can you compare what's there to what's going on now, what we're proposing? Well, I think your reval is going to be somewhere around at least or about 20% increase in the 2019 assessed values. So I took the unit value and I applied that 20% increase, resulting in an average value of $581,000, the value in the median of $572,000, with an average assessment of $406,000. The median assessment was $400,000, what I used. So I'm trying to make it more comparable, as if that was in place today, our project was in place today. The gross assessment for the 48 1-bedroom units totaled $19,526,000 at the current mill rate. I don't have nothing else to use. 37.55, resulted in tax generation of $733,000, using only the 48 of the 99 proposed units at our proposed project. To compare to Great Oak Farm, 4-bedroom units result in $1,009,344, a positive differential for the subject development of $276,000. So just comparing 48 residential units from that we're proposing to the 48 4-bedrooms that are in Great Oak Farms, we still produce more tax revenue. And that's with the 20% increase in the estimated market value of the properties at Great Oak. One of the reasons there are more public school-age children in Great Oak Farm is the cost of the housing. And what I'm saying is the lower priced housing affords the proper possibility for more disposable income that can support more school-age children. So it's known that the higher the priced housing of new construction, the fewer the school-age children. That's in a number of different articles. You can look them up, you can search for it. And what we're looking at here is that the fact that the price of the housing is the reason that there's more school-age children. I could not find a lot of sales that took place there. It's a very static project with 150 units, which says a lot for the town of Monroe. That's why people are staying here. Again, higher priced housing has the propensity to have less school-age children. There's the mathematics that I did. Everything in black I got from the assessor. The blue is, I know you can't read it, but just to tell you what it is, the blue is the increased 20% value, with then the next column is the 70% assessed value of the mill rate. The purple is our project at $800,000 times the 70%, and that's how we calculated the differential. That could support The differential could support about 15 school-aged children at the cost of $18,515. Again, police was an issue. So what I did, I called the Henry Lee Institute, the University of New Haven, the School of Criminal Justice, and I talked to Dr. John DiCarlo. He's the coordinator of the Masters in Criminal Justice at the University of New Haven. Okay, and the national average he reported is about 2.4 police officers per 1,000 population. U.S. Department of Justice indicated that 2020 it was 1.9 per 1,000. I stayed with the 2.4. The results is an estimated number of officers of about 45. I took 18.9 population, increased it with our population of 372, brought it up there, and 2.4 of them is about 45 police officers. And there are currently in your budget for 43 police officers, which includes the chief, because it's all salaries. Dr. Carl said that higher priced housing and minimal commercial development reduce police demand. And in Monroe, the assessor says about 10% of your grand list is commercial. And I don't know of any subsidized housing in town. I don't know of any affordable housing in town, a few units, but not any major projects that would impact. The absence of affordable housing, I just said that. Therefore, the project cost for one additional officer will be used for the 2023 budget. It was about 128,000 is what I came up with when I divided the number of police officers that you had into the salaries. There was a section in your budget that enumerated what the salaries were. So that's what I did there. Also, EMS. We finally got a letter from EMS. And EMS stated that they anticipate the proposed development would increase 4 EMS calls by 45 calls per year. So I started thinking about it. I said, you know, what I have to do is take and look at it on a per capita basis. It's the best way to do it. So I took your population and equated out to $59.38 per capita for every man, woman, and child. I took our 372 population, multiplied it by 59,000. That gave me about $23,000 impact due to the subject property. That's the first way. I didn't get any response from EMS, so that was my estimate. I think that's a fair way to do that. Then I did the fiscal impact analysis, okay? And I revised it. And the only thing, what I did do here, okay, not the only thing, what I did do, I was using 2.25 cars per household. I rounded it down to 2. I then took and used the preceding data and interjected it into the report. And I had to get closer so I could see it. Again, we have education costs for 70 students went up to $1,256,000. Fire, volunteer fire department, no impact. We have a letter from the fire marshal on that. I used $128,000 for one police officer, but that's not only, don't forget, that police officer is not only going to be roaming and protecting the proposed project, that's the benefit to the town. It benefits the whole town, not just the one project. And then we have EMS, that's the $23,000. Public works, private roads. They don't have to maintain the roads, plow, lighting, none of that is impacted. But I threw in $50,000 for additional town services. What does that mean for senior citizens? When I looked at the senior citizen number, when I did the per capita, it came in real low. So I stuck with the $50,000, which was much more than the estimates that I had come up with. And that gave us a total cost of about $1,487,000. That still generated $671,000 of positive tax revenue based on my projections. I then took the RKG report and looked at that. Okay, oh, I forgot I blew that up. Okay, that's exactly what I was just talking about. Then I took the RKG report, and what I did with the RKG report, I used their 1.10 child per household, minus 8% for private schools. And that brought it down to 1.01. And doing it that way, all the other expenses stayed the same. It still generated, the expenses went up to about 2,052,000, tax generation was 2,168,000. It still gave us about $115,000 of positive tax generation. So if that's the worst case scenario, and like I tell all my students, it's about right, because it could change tomorrow, it could get better. Market conditions change, demand changes, but I think the propensity for this project to be marketed and to sell over the absorption time of about 6 years is realistic. I think that the price that we used of $800,000 is ultra conservative based on the market research. I also talked to a couple of brokerage firms, I talked to Wright and someone else I know on the private basis, and they all told me my number of $800,000 was low for today. So that's my report.
Few more comments, commissioners, and I just, regarding the specific issue with, regards to the thanks, Stan. Thanks.
Keep dropping my pen.
Just a couple of things I just wanted to highlight. One is that, with regards to the cost that we had per unit, or what the sales price would be, the 800,000 number, RKG had asked us to check with the assessor on that. We did. The assessor backed that number up to Stan, and then we also checked with the town appraiser, and they also said that they thought that was an accurate number. Just another comment about costs and the town cost analysis. One thing I think is important to point out is that in his analysis, Stan used, and this was a comment from the chief who said that he thought that it would require an additional officer. He used the cost to pay the salary of an officer in its entirety. And so it's the $125,000 number that he has in his report. And that's obviously, that's not a cop that's just like, it's not the Quarry Ridge cop. Will be a cop for the town of Monroe. So we're allotting into our cost, paying an entire officer. If we wanted to be, strict about it, we would say, well, how many calls per year will the cop actually need to come to Quarry Ridge as a percentage of his whole calls that he'll take in a year, and then take a percentage of that number. We didn't do that. We were conservative in this approach. He analyzed it with us paying for the cop. That will be the benefit to the entire town. The other thing is, and I know I spoke about this before last hearing. There's housing demand. It's there. You certainly know that. And all that comes before you in trying to create additional housing. The beauty of this project is it moves a lot of costs that would be associated with the town over to a private homeowners association for them to take care of themselves. Paving, plowing, anything to do with taking care of their roads is now on the private association. There's definitely demand for 99 housing units in Monroe, 99 new housing units, probably multiple more of that. Now, somebody could come in here there could be 10, not that's gonna be wrong, 9, 11 unit subdivisions that come here that propose a public road, and the town would be responsible for the paving of those roads, the plowing of those roads, everything to do with those roads. This project is taking all those, and I think that was acknowledged in RKG's report as well, and their response to comments was that this is being transferred over to the homeowners association here. They're taking care of it. They're taking that burden off of the town. So you get 99 units to help satisfy your housing demand, but you're not having, but the town isn't having to handle those traditional costs. The other thing, and I know this isn't, because I talked to Stan about this, when they do impact analysis, they don't usually take into account one-off fees. But I think it should be stated that there's a number of one-time fees that will be associated with development. I just know as a residential lawyer, residential real estate lawyer, conveyance taxes. For an $800,000 unit, that's $2,000 to the town of Monroe. That's 99 houses, it's basically $200,000 that will upfront go to the town of Monroe on conveyance, and then every subsequent conveyance, they will also pay conveyance taxes. So there's a lot of revenue coming to the town that isn't even accounted for here, permit fees, things like that. That's not even accounted for in this. And then on top of that, these reports don't analyze the benefit that having the spending power of the residents of these 99 units have. So then there's that benefit in its entirety beyond that. What they spend in the restaurants, what they spend at the gas station, what they spend on the local contractor, the local body shop. All those aren't taken into account for the impact now. So that's just a whole other added benefit to the town. And you know, and then it's not going to be a part of an impact analysis, but the benefit of the families and bringing in a new generation of Monroe residents. I know that some of you raised your families here and enjoyed raising your families here. And there's going to be more residents here who are going to raise their families here, be a strength to the town of Monroe. The future first selectman could be in this development. State champ. I mean, there's a lot of benefit just beyond. I get, you know, this analysis of the fiscal. I sometimes cringe at it because it's just it's breaking down families and people into, are they making money or they're not making. And there's so much more to be gained by adding these people as residents to the town of Monroe. The other thing, just generally about fiscal analysis, and this actually applies to traffic as well. It's not a standard that an application such as this can be denied. This in the courts, there's multiple cases about this, that fiscal zoning is not a grounds to deny an application like this. It's not like a judge goes and looks and says, all right, this thing's in the green, so it should be approved, and it's in the red, so it should be denied. What fiscal analysis plays into is planning. So when you plan, when you have your POCD and you set your zoning regulations and you set your zones, that's where it really plays in. And you look at, all right, well, how many units should we have in an MFR, and how much should we allow there? How many apartments should we allow? How much age restriction should we allow? Then you look at what the costs are associated with it and you plan accordingly. You zone accordingly. The planning on this application happened a long time ago. The planning portion of it happened a long time ago. This regulation was set. The zone of this property was set. That was all handled a long time ago. This is just the site plan development. And so, you know, this was the MFR district was put over this property. It encompasses 99 acres under your regulations. That allows 99 units. So I know I said this at the start of our application at the very beginning, a little over a month ago. You know, this is not an application for a zone change. It's not an application for a text change. We didn't need a variance for it. A long time ago, this property was looked at as an appropriate location for an MFR to handle this type of density. And the costs of it and everything, that was looked at, and when this thing was designated as a MFR district. And I think that also speaks to traffic. This location on Turkey Roost Road, it was approved for an MFR district that would be permitted this level of density. And Turkey Roost Road was an appropriate road to handle that. It's not, we're not coming to you with a zone change application for an MFR district on a narrow road that's got, a few houses on it that couldn't support if we put in a 99 unit development and the roadway could support it. I think what our traffic study has shown is that this is a road that can support it. But again, this was something when this project was originally discussed, the zoning was originally done, the regulations were applied to it, those discussions were happening. And it was found that this is an appropriate location for this specific type of development. It wasn't zoned in ARR, it wasn't zoned anything else but MFR. And that was felt to be the appropriate zone, the appropriate thing. So we are just coming in under these standards. And, and again, it's a site plan that's already been approved before for 90 units. The change in condition up to 99 units is totally conforming to regulations. It needed no variances. And so that's why we feel that this application is within your standards, within your regulations, and appropriate. So, happy to answer your questions, but I think, are we going now to the consultants, or we're happy to answer any questions that the commission
You
may
done?
have, or I.
All right, so go to Kathleen and we'll bring in all the consultants.
The planning and zoning administrator memo was thoroughly looked at during their presentation, so I'm just going to highlight a couple follow-up items. The first is the open space calculation that they updated. It looks like a portion of the emergency access drive is being counted as open space in the hatching. So we would just want you guys to just relook at that calculation one more time to confirm. Our open space, the town of Monroe's definition defines open space as a parcel of land, a parcel or area of land or water essentially unimproved and legally set aside, dedicated, designed, or reserved for public or private use and or the enjoyment in its relative natural state for perpetuity through deeds or other legal means. Lands protected and or restricted from development, lands dedicated to remain unaltered or in a natural state. So if you could provide a calculation and maybe an overlay just to make sure we're not adding septic systems, as well as roads and other potential improvements, that open space calculation is specifically just for what's defined. The other item I would like to bring up is the architectural comment that I had. This is a multifamily residence, so therefore it did not go in front of the ARB. So you have no ARB review for this. So I just wanted the commission to have the opportunity. It was included in the plans, but I also wanted to make sure it was presented. So you guys got to see the design vernacular. In the previous approval for this project in 2010, it did have a condition of the approval since the architecture design vernacular will be established for the project as a whole once the project is completed and delivered by the developer, and sold, that the additions, that no change, addition, or exterior alterations may be made without approval from the Planning and Zoning Commission. That was a condition of their approval, and we'll put that on our list for things to discuss when we're looking at our conditions of approval as well. Did you have other things related to zoning? I'd love to piggyback on that.
Sure. I had a few comments. First, just for the record, I think I just got this information on Monday, so I haven't really reviewed it all. And I understand the hearing's going to be continued, but I appreciate the response. One of the things, that Kathleen mentioned is the revision to the OS1 plan. That will be helpful. And I think it's important too, because I think you're at the area in the MF zone is at 99 acres, and the MF requires that half of the land be open space. So you got to have 49.5. And I think you were right at that. So that's an important calculation to make sure that's done correctly. Just a question here. I noticed on page 2, Attorney Russo, you cited 83H about site plans. That's the section that says when you have an approved site plan and you change the regulations, the site plan doesn't have to conform with the new regulation. And I agree absolutely with that, but I didn't see how that affected anything in this application. That would obviously come into play if you were looking to build out the previously approved site plan, but you've got a new application here. Am I missing something? Or I just didn't see why you even mentioned that.
Well, I think what I was trying to say is that that there hasn't been any change condition since that was originally approved. We came in, we applied, we were compliant with your regulations, we satisfied all your standards. And then there's nothing that's been changed with the regulations that would affect that original approval. That still would be valid here. And then what we've changed since then is also compliant. So I have to look at E3H. I'll look at it and I'll respond to, but it's there's no condition that I think that has changed here that differentiates from what the original site plan approval that would make this not compliant with how your regulations stand out.
Yeah, I mean, I read that as saying, yeah, if you wanted to pursue the age-restricted 90-unit development that you had approval for and it hadn't expired, yeah, you would be able to do that.
Right.
But this is a different application. It's not age-restricted, and it's 99 units.
Right, but there's nothing in the MFR regulations with regard to age restriction and the density, and that's, I guess, the point I was trying to make is that the 90 was compliant, but the 99 is also compliant.
Sure. So it complies with the regulations. That's your point. So, yeah, okay, got it. One other thing, you had an analysis where you compared, that was one of the other questions. They changed the regs in 2013. And what were those changes about? Because the approval was done under the prior version. And you had an analysis, which I haven't really reviewed that thoroughly, of the old versus the new regulations. So it's probably good that we put the old regulations in the record so that we dig them up so that at least it's clear what those are.
Yeah, so
And that also comes into the 1.93 discussion that's the one, remember the split zone where 1.93 says that when you have property that is in two zones, the portion of the property in that zone has to comply with that zone, and it has to be in that zone, and the portion in the other zone has to comply with the other zone. And I don't know if that regulation even existed back when this original approval was done. So I don't, we'll take a look at that.
yeah. I think
Okay, so that,
I can submit that.
yeah, we can look at that because one of your arguments is that, hey, look, you approved the 2010 plan, approved the septic system in the RF zone at that time. And I guess my question is, did this regulation even exist at that time because it was amended? So we'll dig that down because that's what I understand part of your argument to be, that you have a precedent of interpreting it this way.
It
Yeah,
is that, but then also that we comply with this current regulation as well, in that there's no non-residential district involved in this application.
Right, and you quoted 1.94, and that's the one that says that no portion of a lot in a residential district shall be used for any subsurface principal accessory use or structure on a lot portion in a non-residential district. So you can't use a residential district for a septic system for a non-residential district. That's what that says.
Correct.
And the inference you're making is that therefore you can use different residential, a use in one residential district, a septic system in another residential district. I think it doesn't say that, but that's the inference that
I think the language would have said then is that a residential district cannot be used for a septic system in a non-residential district or any other residential district. And it does not, and the regulations don't say that.
And again, I'm looking at this, but here's the thing that's going through my head. I want to give you the benefit of my thinking. The reason that I wondered about that is because there's lots of residential districts. You laid them out.
Right.
You could have RF1, RF2, RF3. And if you have a split zone lot that's RF1 and RF2, seems to me you can have the septic system on both lots because they both allow single family dwellings. And if the use is allowed in that portion of a lot, then there's not an issue. And the issue I'm having here is that you have a multifamily use, which is not allowed in the RF, even though it is a residential district. It's RF2. It's not allowed that. And I understand your inference from saying, well, it specifically calls out and therefore it's allowed. But that's what I'm struggling with. That to me, that's one reason why you can't necessarily say that all residential ones it applies to others.
The only difference with Monroe, it's very specific and it's in multiple locations where it says residential districts and then it lists them down.
Right.
And then commercial districts and it lists them down. And then you go to bulk standards, it's the same. And that's how it's divvied up.
Sure.
Between the two.
Yeah. But I could understand that you could have a split zone lot and it could be allowed because the uses were allowed. The other issue is you have the section 1.912. That's the regular section in most zoning regulations, Canoe and Monroe, that says uses which are not specifically permitted under the zoning regulations are hereby declared to be prohibited uses. Any use not specifically listed for an individual zoning district in the town as set forth in Article 10, scheduled permitted uses, by zoning district shall be deemed prohibited in the zoning district. So you got that one if it's not specifically allowed. So anyway, the reason what I'm trying to do here is I'm telling you, I just saw this. These are
Yep.
some of the thoughts. If you want to address that further.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was my comment earlier regarding that it's not listed as use. So it's not like there's a septic or a leaching field use listed under Monroe zoning regulations. Like for the commercial zones, there's this one, and then for the non-residential, it's this one. It's not listed as a use. So I don't think that applies to improvements like that. I think it applies to the, what it says with the use, which is defined in reg. You list the different uses in regulation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
I'd like to continue now with our town engineer. I know James was on via Zoom, so hopefully he's still here in attendance if he would like to unmute himself.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. I'm James DeMayo, town engineer. Yeah, if you maybe want to stop screen sharing, that'll help everybody on that's remote. Yeah, there we go. So now everybody can see everything. Before the meeting, I did also speak with Attorney Russo, and found out that the anticipation is to extend the public hearing, because my only concern is reviewing the police chief's comment letter, and then also speaking with him and Mr. Edwards after their meeting. I think there's a little bit of discrepancy in terms of their takeaways. So, however, the applicant indicated that they are planning on working through that with the police chief. And the only reason why I bring it up is because depending upon how they do the emergency access way or full driveway or something like that, it could have some significant changes to the site plan. That's the only thing I would like the commission to be aware of. But that's really the biggest thing that I currently have.
All right, thank you very much. I'd like to move next now to our consulting traffic engineer, Michael Dion from BL Companies, who did our peer review of the applicant's traffic study.
Good evening, everyone. You can hear me for the record. Mike Dion of BL Companies, 355 Research Parkway in Meriden, professional engineer and professional traffic operations engineer. BL Companies was retained to do a peer review of the traffic impact study that was done. Part of that review is to make sure that it conforms to industry standards and make sure that their methodologies are appropriate for this size development. Our review consisted of, procedures that were used, make sure they were in conformance. The assumptions that were used, wanted to make sure they were appropriate. We didn't do any independent analysis or traffic counts of our own or do any safety audits or anything. But we did review the traffic impact study that was prepared. We did take a look at the traffic impact study that was done back in 2003 as well. And we looked at the police chief's letter as well. I don't want to go through all 6 pages of my letter. I know you've all been here a long time. I'll just hit some of the highlights for you. It does appear that they have submitted an updated addendum to the study, which incorporates a lot of our comments, I believe. So I have to go back and check it, but we haven't had the time to do that yet. Part of what we looked at, was looking at the scope of the study, make sure that it is in conformance with industry standards. Typically for industry standards, we use the Institute of Transportation Engineers. I'll refer to them as ITE. It's a consortium of engineers that's been around for 70 years, collecting data and distributing data for the last 50 years, actually. And looking at their study, they did an analysis of 6 intersections, which we do feel is appropriate. Typically, according to ITE and the Connecticut DOT, they want you to look at any intersection where you're adding over 100 new trips to it in the peak period. This study, you're actually not adding 100 new trips to any intersection during any peak period, but we understand the sensitivity of the area, so they actually did a study and went out 6 unsignalized intersections, which is appropriate. The crash data was mentioned. They did look at 5 years of crash data up and down Turkey Roost Road in the intersections. Typically, that's more than we normally look at. It was supported by the police chief's letter. The police chief just gave data for crashes that were on Turkey Roost without looking at the intersections. So as the applicant did mention, the crashes were, I think it was 0 in 2020, 6 in 2022, and 1 in each of the other years. And they were on Turkey Roost itself, all single car accidents where they hit a mailbox or hit a tree or hit an animal. It didn't say what the cause of the accident was, whether it was speed or anything, so we couldn't determine that in his report. We looked at their the existing traffic volumes that they did collect the data for. An interesting note comparing that to the 2003 study that was done, the volumes were all very close to each other. Within 5 or 10 vehicles on all movements for all the intersections. So the traffic data shows that there hasn't been a huge increase in traffic throughout the study area in 20 years. We looked at their trip generation numbers, and they did use the Institute of Transportation Engineers data, which is the industry standard that we feel that it was appropriate. We had some questions on how they came up with it, and they've responded. I haven't reviewed their response yet. Trip distribution, they did distribute it to the roadway network using journey to work data and existing volumes on the roadway network. We just asked for that journey to work data so we could see where their percentages came from, and they supplied it, but we haven't reviewed it yet. We had some issues with their volumes that the applicant had mentioned, how there was a discrepancy on Fan Hill Road with the amount of cars going back and forth from a historical data that the Connecticut DOT has. They've indicated that they've corrected that data, so we'd have to take a look at it and make sure that they did do it. Part of our review was we met out in the field with the town engineer one morning for school dismissal, for school arrival time. We were out there for about 2 hours with them. And it's typical school arrival time traffic. There's a surge of traffic going at drop-off time, and then it dissipates relatively quickly within, I think we saw about 15 minutes or so. It dissipated, then another wave came and dissipated. We did notice a sightline issue at Turkey Roost and Fan Hill. It's not for the applicant to fix, we don't feel, but coming southbound on Turkey Roost, if you're looking to the right, there's shrubberies that are in the way. The town engineer is aware of it, and I believe the shrubs are in the town right of way, so he's going to work with the homeowner to try to remedy that situation. Police chief did mention the additional access point. We feel we would support that access point if the police chief wanted it. It just disperses traffic more, gives people more options to get in and out of the site. We did give them about 21, well, not about, we did give them 21 comments that we wanted taken care of. We got the data yesterday, haven't had a chance to take a look at it, but we'll go through it and make sure that they incorporated all of our comments. I don't know if we want to do questions now, because I'm sure they've put no after.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The next item is Lawrence Craner, who is here via Zoom and did a peer review of the economic analysis. He is from RKG Associates.
Hello, and thank you. Lawrence Craner with RKG. Excuse me. I heard in the presentation tonight that several of the issues that were and concerns that were brought up in our peer review have been refined, addressed, or otherwise looked at. And I appreciate that response on the part of the applicant. As with B&L, we've just received the full report of the responses. So, appreciate the opportunity to look at that in a little more detail and digest it. But in short, the presentation that was given tonight did address many of those issues.
All right, thank you very much. As was mentioned, we did receive the applicant's resubmission in hard copy on Friday and digital copy on Sunday. It was distributed via digital copy to our consultants. Monday morning, and then is also distributed to the commission tonight. We have already had preliminary discussions with the applicant about continuing the public hearing tonight until potentially April 9th, so that we are able to have time for both staff, the commission, and our consultants to review it and submit additional material or request additional material by the applicants that could be entered into the record.
Excellent. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Questions? Can we mute that person?
I'm trying.
Good?
Yes.
Are you, excuse me, are you taking questions now?
Not from the public yet.
Okay.
Thanks. Can we mute him too?
Yes.
He is beautiful. We're gonna start to the right, Dom. With questions.
Right. All right. I want to shift gears and talk about the history of the property. I did a site visit recently and some questions came to mind. So this was a quarry for about over 30 years. It was a large operation. Many, large trucks that, can't drive down the street and get their own gas. So I was wondering, how were these trucks fueled? Was there a pumping station on grounds that you're aware of?
Well, you gotta identify. You want us to just address the comments right now, and how do you want?
I think the best way to go about it is to take them, if we're gonna ask a million questions. So if we're gonna take them all at the end, we're gonna be in the same boat. Why don't you pick away at them?
As they come up. So Dave, you want to just introduce yourself?
Dave Mashesky, owner, one of the owners. When we took it over in 2003, we had fuel trucks that would come in and fill the equipment. We had basically just one rock truck, and we had excavators and a crusher. Prior to that, Ron did have fuel. They were above ground tanks. I believe he had a couple underground. They were taken out prior to me buying it. That was part of it. The purchase, that they had to be taken out, and they were supervised by the fire marshal.
Okay. And as far as the larger trucks that couldn't fit in the garage, they were just kind of stored outside?
We only had one truck, so I can't answer for prior to 2003. That was stored in the garage.
Right. So I know there was extremely large vehicles there prior to your,
Commissioner, too, there was a whole remediation plan that was associated after David purchased the property, and Dave carried out that remediation plan.
Okay. So did that remediation plan include soil testing for contamination?
No. Yeah, well, we had originally, when we took it from Ron, we had a phase 1 done, and it showed nothing. You go through the records from the state, you go through the fire marshal, and there were no spills, reported or detected. So we did not.
My other concern would be just the general maintenance of these vehicles, the oil change, the hydraulic fluid, antifreeze.
Yeah, he and us, we had a reclamation furnace. So any of the waste oil and or the hydraulic fluid, we would be put in the furnace, and that would be burned off as fuel. The antifreeze was taken away. Again, I can't answer for Ron.
So do we have records of the soil testing and how deep it went and anything like
That's
that?
phase 1, so there would not be any soil testing. Except maybe where the tank.
Yeah. And then with regards to this specific development, we would have groundwater monitoring. Right.
Yeah, quarterly.
Okay. The other thing that came to mind, as far as contamination would be lead. I know there was hunting on this property for quite a long time. And on my walk, I found a group of, shells, shotgun and small caliber. There was about 20 shells that I found. Usually when you go hunting, you don't pop off 20 rounds. So my point is, I feel like maybe this was used as like an outdoor shooting range for some time. And I researched a little bit about that, and outdoor ranges have, they have issues with lead contamination. I'm just wondering, was there any testing done on that?
Yeah, there was no testing with regards to that. I mean, one of the things that, and if you remember, there is a proposal to leave the piece up by Cobbler's Court as a separate piece to be able to develop that piece to prevent people, block people, because there are people, I think, who come in that way into the site and use it for, I heard there was like motocross there or something, and then there are people who were shooting. And so that'll prevent that at least in the future. I don't know about the lead right now, but that's one of the things that will be the benefit is we're gonna hopefully prevent people from trespassing.
Well, that's great for the future, but I mean, if you're conservatively speaking, if you're talking about 50 years, let's just say of hunting, even if there was only 10 shots per week, that's 520 a year. Over 50 years, that's 26,000 slugs. And that's conservative. That's saying it's not target practice, not including buckshot or birdshot, which there's about 100 lead pellets in each shot. So I'm just thinking that there really should be extensive lead testing all over this property.
It's something I can look at and discuss. I'd have to discuss it out with the engineer about what we do. I mean, the only thing I know is, again, we're doing the groundwater monitoring. We are doing.
I mean, I never did it. I never did any shooting, and I didn't allow hunting, but hunters want to.
Or just.
I'm so sorry. Can you?
Yeah, sorry. So we
just summarize it for the record, just so it's on the.
Dave Manchester again. I never allowed hunting on it, but people hunted on it because I'm not there 24 hours. And we never did any target practice or anything like that. If you found something there, it could have been obviously somebody. It wasn't me. Somebody could have came on there, and we. As you can see, the building there was vandalized, so that people come on with, they think they own it. They come on with ATVs, they, have parties, that's one reason they come in through Cobbler's Court. That's one reason we're proposing to have a lot there and a house there. That would keep them, if we didn't have that, people again would still come in through that area.
And Commissioner, we'll take a look at it because we have to look at it. But the one thing I'll add though right now is that we are bringing water on. So I mean, as far as a water source to these unit owners, I mean, we're bringing water and it's not well. And so I'm not an expert on that. So we're bringing clean water on this property.
Well, as a comparison, we had a quarry. Everyone's pretty familiar with it on Cambridge Road, and there was questions of contamination, and eventually they agreed to hire an independent tester, and they went through everything, and it was clean. But they drilled several boreholes, pretty deep as far as the quarry went down, and analyzed everything. Even if that was done 20 years ago, I think it should be done again because science is better, technology. I mean. I just think
we'll take it. I'll talk to our engineer about it. Thank you. Look at it.
This is comments for Jason. The cut fill on site, the analysis that you did, how much of the site are you actually cutting? So how much of the existing soil quarry as it relates right now are you exposing, and how much of that are you just capping and filling?
It's a pretty balanced, but we're kind of filling out the front and cutting it.
So it's a little bit of both.
Yeah,
Okay.
but there's not a significant amount of cut. It's, it's just getting pushed around.
Okay.
For the record, there is, Jason, there is monitoring wells that were done out there for the septic designs. So we can look into if there's any testing that's been done there. But there's also people that live directly surrounding there. If it had been used as a shooting range, I think they would have, been reporting that. And there's been no evidence of that to us.
Yeah. I'd like to hear from some of the neighbors that have lived there for years.
There's definitely occasional hunters. I know that. I mean, we definitely have. Somebody like a regular shooting range. We haven't heard of that.
We just have to take into consideration the years and years that this on and this wasn't a legal quarry. So the guy did what he wanted, like things like 20-foot tires where they buried, stuff like that. We just don't know. So.
The site's been, just in case the numbers again, the site's been remediated and regraded and reblasted, it's sort of reshaped. And during that process, it was excavated, we filled in the holes, we excavated out the other areas. So it's pretty well known what was there from that standpoint. There's, hundreds of test holes that were dug after the fact that we did not find anything, but to my knowledge, that was, suspect, whether it be shells or tires or anything like that. I don't think there was anything that was of record there. So it's not something that I'm concerned with. But we can look into if there's any evidence of it.
Oh, yeah, I'm very concerned with it, and I'd like to see that in writing if possible. Thank you. Also,
Dominic?
Yes. Thank you for your report. It was very thorough. My question is not to be taken as negative or anti, but just for clarifications. So I take it that most of your reports are estimate and projections and assumptions. And so
For which, sorry, Commissioner, for which one? For all of them or for somebody specific?
in the real estate,
The fiscal impact. It's there. Yes, sir. What's your question? That's Steve has to ask you really. Are they projected or the estimates? Well, everything, it's based on historical data and then projecting into the future.
mostly projection and estimate.
So if we see an upward trend, we report that going upward in the future. If we see a downward trend, which is happening in a lot of the areas, we report that and project that going.
Okay.
So they're projected. So like I said earlier, you have to use the word about.
Right.
Yep.
So in statistics, whatever you put into the hopper, that's what you get out. So one report, you said that you're estimating 70 kids to attend schools, and out of those, less because some are going to go to private school.
Yeah, the national average in data that comes out, Esri has it within their data, about 8% of the population go to private school. So the first report that I did projected 64 public school age children. But if you read the report, I started off with 70 school age children for the project, the entire project. I'm assuming 8% of them went to private school. The revised analysis that I provided tonight, I assume that none of them are going to go to private school, and I use a total of 70 school age children.
But that's a projection and assumption.
That's a projection.
Another assumption putting into the hopper would be that 20 houses would have 0 children.
Well, the data that was presented to you tonight, supporting data that was there, show the assumption that I said, I think is being made, that you're going to have a school-age child in every single house, or 2 school-age children. That's not going to happen.
We know that.
Not with the lifestyle changes.
We know that.
Yeah, okay.
So if you allow me to say,
Sure.
say a projection of 20 houses, 0 children. 60 houses, 1 kid per house. 10 houses, 2 per house, and maybe 5 houses, 3. That brings you to an average of 100, 110.
Wow.
So that's where we differ. Okay, but that's just one assumption.
Yeah.
The other assumption would be we're adding, that's for the traffic. Now we're adding 200 cars.
I'm not a traffic engineer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're adding 200 cars. That's 2 per household. Out of those, at peak hours in the AM and at PM, how would they impact the road? We never went to that.
So we use Nick Havan with SLR. We use, as like Fred mentioned, we use the Institute of Transportation and Engineers data from there. And they provide, based on their studies of multiple scenarios, they come up with the trip generation rates for everything from liquor store to housing to parking lots for the airports. You know, they come up, they have all land use codes and specific daytime values, morning peak hours, PM peak hours, daily hours, Saturday, Sunday, generator, and adjacent street values. So we use those data to estimate the trips that are generated by each, in this case, by each unit, by the entire development. And
Going away from that data and doing your own projection, did you do a traffic study?
I'm going strictly with the industry standard.
Have you done a traffic study?
Right.
How many cars have gone through that road?
Well, let me just get my numbers because with my age, my brain is going way too, so. So this is the land use code of 99, land use code of 210, which stands for single family detached housing. We have 99 units. There are a couple of ways of estimating the numbers. We can have the generator assumption, which is what the development is gonna generate.
I'm aware, excuse me, I'm aware of that.
Okay.
And it's not to be anti, just for,
Are you specifically asking about how?
I'm specifically asking on Turkey Roost, right?
Mhm.
As the data as it stands right now, how many cars are there going through the AM and the PM?
Okay, in the morning, you're gonna have 19 vehicles coming in and 55 vehicles going out.
As it stands.
Per hour. That's the peak hour in the morning.
And
Hold on a second.
That's the addition.
No, we're talking about currently today, right now, how many cars are on Turkey Roost in the morning?
Oh,
Not the subdivision.
okay,
Currently, today.
sorry, I have it as well. We have we placed the two over there. And we have a daily volume of 997 vehicles both ways. That's per 24 hours. In the morning, the peak hour is 110 both ways and 103 in the afternoon.
Okay.
Between,
So-
yeah,
out of that figure, would you say that's light, medium, or heavy traffic for that road?
totally light.
Light. So interjecting an additional 200 cars,
No, I'm not 200 cars. 74 cars in the morning and 98 cars in the afternoon.
that's again, it's an estimate or a projection.
It is,
Okay,
and it's very light.
so. Okay. And you don't think that's going to impact at all?
No, our analysis showed that it does not.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course.
My next question is on the sewage treatment.
These are like rotating. Beautiful.
Is that,
Mhm.
and that's powered by a generator?
Yes, the pumps in the treatment plant powered by a generator if the power fails for the community. Jason Edwards.
Does that take all the houses, all the 99 houses?
No, the generators that I was speaking of are only for the.
The sewer treatment plant,
Yes,
does that take all the 99 houses?
yes.
Okay, so, and does that need to be emptied or?
Well, it empties itself out into these leaching fields. So as the pumps are running, the treatment plant's processing, the water, which is the main issue that you have to, the main byproduct that you have to distribute goes out to the system as long as the pumps are running the generator.
So that does not need any, pumping out
There's
periodically.
sludge tanks that do need to be pumped out, but that would be on a long-term basis. It's not,
That's not what Dave Bjorkman said.
what did Dave York say?
He said they'd come out on a monthly basis.
The sludge tanks? Okay, well, then I'll have to check that and make sure.
Monthly basis?
That's what he,
It's like monthly if you-
I asked.
What he said, yeah.
I asked and he said on a monthly
Yeah,
basis.
okay, well, then it would be a monthly basis.
Does,
Yeah, it's monitored in real time, so you'd have notice of that once needed.
that's taken care of by the association.
Yeah, they have to have a licensed, for the term that they use for it, but basically a company that's licensed to maintain it, that they hire to control.
Thank you very much.
Yep, well,
My next question is on the, since you haven't gone into the architectural review board as far as the aesthetic of the houses, and who is going to decide on the curb appeal or the actual design of each house? Are they going to be row houses or?
I mean, you have standards with regards to that we will have to abide by, but we provided a few samples of what the conceptual design of what those would look like. But whatever gets built has to conform to your standards. There's standards regarding height, obviously, but separation between units, things like that, between the separate dwellings.
Who would be in charge? Is it the developer? Is there an architect or who is going to be in charge? 5 houses are being sold and they're going to be built.
Correct.
Who is going to decide the appeal or the look of this house from curb appeal? Who's going to decide that?
Well, as the final design would be the developer and the architect, and they would come in, they would submit a building permit application for each of the units.
Yeah, I know that.
We got you the templates, but they're gonna be variations of, which model we use and things like that.
I understand.
But no, there's no town board, or there's no requirement of the regulations that a town board would review each house if that's what you're
I
asking.
understand.
Yes.
But still, you're not answering my question. I'm not saying.
Yeah, no, sorry, I thought this.
Who is this? There's 5 or 10 houses being built. Who's to say they're not going to build all 10 houses the same? Who's deciding on the look or the structure or the design of that house?
Developers, yeah.
Yeah, it's the developer.
Developer.
The homeowners association could have some bylaws they enact too.
Right.
Yeah, that's not to be, that's.
The HOA could put in standards with regards to that, the homeowners association.
Okay, I'm only interested in not having a bunch of row houses. So who would be deciding?
It's the developer, yeah, it's really the developer and then eventually it could be the homeowners association.
But the homeowner association doesn't come into play. Oh, that's another my question.
Right.
At what point does the homeowner association go from the developer to the homeowner association?
Well, so it would have to be established before the first units.
When the first unit is sold,
Okay.
the homeowner association is still the developer.
Sorry. Yeah, sure. Sorry, I'm gonna have Dave come up with.
So when you establish a homeowner association and you're the builder, at what point there has to be at least 20 or 30 houses being built that you turn it over, or you're going to keep it almost near the end, right?
Where you can keep it till you're 50% are sold, and it's turned over to the homeowners.
So you're building 50 houses.
800,000.
Okay, who are you going to answer that you're not going to build? No, I'm not saying that you're going to do it, that you're going to build all the same and they're going to look like a row house.
I don't think well, we will, but truthfully, it's ultimately the consumer is going to tell you not to do. Because if they're spending $800,000, they're not going to live in a row house. They're going to want amenities. They're going to want a look. They want different things than the guy next door. I don't really think that will become an issue. I don't see it as an issue.
That's not the answer I'm looking for. I'm looking for that somewhere, somehow, you're going to say, it's not going to be that because I'm going to make sure that.
Oh, it's certainly not going to be that because.
You're going to have somebody in charge of that?
Oh, yeah. There will be an architect and me.
Okay, so we're not going to have a row house.
Well, they're single family detached, but they're not going to be, certainly not going to be the same row houses.
Okay. So you're going to take care of that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Should just told them what to do.
You don't relinquish, right? So, okay, so I want to clarify that because how I said it. The homeowners association is created at the beginning, but it's not, the 50% of it isn't relinquished until you reach that level. So,
Right.
but it will, the homeowners association will be there from the beginning.
Yeah, but the developer will be making all the decision until that 50%
Correct.
occurs.
Correct.
We know that.
Yeah.
All right. The other thing is, in Monroe, we badly need affordable housing, but this development does not address that at all.
Well, your regulations don't either. I mean, so the regulations do not make that requirement. Under the MFR does not require affordable housing. And, you know, and I beyond that, you know, that was my discussion with regards to how this is, this type of development does not cater well to affordable housing. It can put the affordable unit on.
I understand that. I understand.
Okay.
My question is not to make you go to affordable housing. It's to just let everybody understand that with your development, we're not meeting any requirements for affordable housing.
No, it would not age what your requirements.
Okay.
No, it actually hurts our requirements.
It's the regulations. I mean, we're coming in on.
No, it's pretty simple. It hurts.
As a quick clarification, we're talking about when we say requirements, I just want to clarify what we mean when we say requirements. Our local zoning regulations, for example, in the age restricted zone requires a 10% affordable housing stipulation. Our local regulations in an MFR zone does not require any affordable housing as part of the development. However, the state has requirements related to the percentage of affordable housing per total housing units in the town. That requirement is the goal is 10%. And if you don't meet the goal of 10%, there's other stipulations and the town has to follow if certain applications are provided to the town. Currently, Monroe does not meet that 10% goal and is therefore subject to additional regulations. So when we say requirement, this housing development increasing our total housing units by another 99 does not go towards that 10% goal as regulated by the state. However, as it relates to our local regulations, it is in compliance because our local regulations does not require an affordable housing requirement in the MFR district.
And the other thing I'll say too, Commissioner, is, I mean, when somebody builds a single family house, it doesn't help with the requirements. And same thing with a subdivision. If somebody comes in with a 9-lot subdivision, that doesn't either. It's not required of them and there's no standard.
Well, technically, if they give us 2 homes of it or 1 home of that 9.
But that's not a requirement under regulations. So if
I
somebody,
understand it's not our requirement, but what you're not understanding is it does not help the town reach its goal.
I'm acknowledging that.
Are you?
But I am acknowledging, but what I'm saying, it's not.
So when I tell you it hurts us, there should be no combatant because it's true. It does hurt the town to reach that number.
It's affordable housing.
Correct.
But that would be imposing a standard on.
I don't think we're
application,
imposing anything.
But it's a standard that is not required under your regulations. Just as it's not required for a single family developer or somebody developing a single development property or somebody who's developing a subdivision.
They've done it in other subdivisions.
But it's not required of them under.
And okay, Dom?
One last question.
One last question.
I mean, Commissioner, that would be the same if you said.
By all means, can Dominic finish, please?
But if somebody.
We're good, dude. When it comes to me, we will talk. Thank you.
So you're building a road that's going to be kept up and maintained by the association.
Correct.
And the driveways, which total 5,000 whatever of driveways.
You mean linear feet? That's the road. The loop road.
It's the access driveway.
Yeah.
That's the access driveway.
Correct.
That's maintained by the association also.
Correct.
Is that being built by the standard of DOT or
It's very.
road standard,
Yeah, it's basically the town standard. I don't know which road.
catch basins and all that?
Yes.
Any lights there in that? Yes, no? I didn't look at the plan for now.
There is, there is lighting, yes. Yeah, I'm submitting light.
Thank you.
Anything else, Tom?
No, thank you very much.
Ryan?
Let's go with, traffic study.
All right. Yes,
So the question earlier about the current traffic on Turkey Roost and the intersections, what day was that study done?
It was done in 2023. Midweek while the school was in session.
It was, while it wasn't on a holiday, it
No.
wasn't, and it was during the weekday. Yeah, the actual date.
Yeah. It had an action. October 17, 2023.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that was on the record.
And October 17th was a Tuesday.
Yes.
Clarification.
That sounds good.
All right, thank you. Real estate.
These things in the front row.
So when you brought up the Realtor Association statistics, that's nationally, right? They're looking at national numbers. You had mentioned that Monroe's average household is 2.75.
2.76.
And you said that that was higher than the surrounding towns?
Some of the surrounding towns, yes.
So I think a big reason that that's the case is because people move to this town for the schools. And, you know, a lot of people, and nationally, I'm sure people move to towns like Fairfield or Milford for maybe the beach or other things, maybe to be near universities or bigger business areas. We don't have that here. The biggest draw to this town is the schools. So I really, really think that that number of students that this is going to bring in is going to be higher. That's just, you know, looking at a smaller sample
Well, I use
size.
70,
as opposed
which is,
to-
you know,
I know you skewed it a little high. I still think it's going to be higher. And we talked about the cost with relation to when you look at the cost of a school age student, you're looking at how many employees, right, or extra classrooms that might cost
well,
the town.
the data comes from the Department of Education in Connecticut, fed up from the school districts.
Okay.
And they come up with the cost inclusive of special ed, outplacement students, that's what that 18,515 is. But another way to look at it is to see how many, if there's a student teacher ratio in there, I think it's around 12 or 14, somewhere in there. I think I got the reports about that. Down to how many teachers you're gonna need. And that's what I usually look at. And yeah, there's more than enough money generated out of the project to support additional teachers. That's what I really look at.
So now the other question is, because I believe, and I could be wrong, we're planning and zoning, we're not the Board of Ed, at the local school in that area, Fawn Hollow, is very close to capacity, where I've heard they're talking about potentially looking to put students in temporary classrooms outside. So, that cost wasn't factored in of building a new school or anything like that.
No, that wasn't factored in, and here's why. Okay, because when I talked to your superintendent of schools, who's been very cooperative and very straightforward, I knew from day one, and I think I said in my original report, he stated that you already have an issue with classroom space. I said that in my report. That's continuing forward. Whether this project goes forward or not, you're going to have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
To place it all on this project, I don't think it's fair. It's going to contribute to it, but it's not going to be the primary reason why you have to have another school.
No, and I understand that, but at the same time, it's what we up here can do to try to help that.
It's a town-wide problem that the town's going to have to address. How they address that, I don't know. But, you're going to have other development coming into the area. The Fairfield County, all of a sudden, is the golden child out there that everybody wants to move to. And yeah, the schools have an important role, and you do have a good school system. And that's one of the things that people look at. But you also have to look at the changing of the lifestyle that's happening. I don't think you're going to have a child in every unit. I think that there's a reasonable degree of probability that's not going to happen. Is it going to be 70? I did the Westfield project in Trumbull, and I believe it was in the newspaper that there's less school-age children in that project than I projected.
Aren't those apartments?
Those are apartments, yeah. I'm just saying, I'm using that as an example. It goes.
That's not a good example.
The projecting the number of school-age children is like a yo-yo. That's all I'm trying to say. But yes, you do have a good school system. You have a problem that exists prior to this project being introduced. I'm just saying it shouldn't, all the demand for additional school or more classrooms should not be placed solely on this project. That's all I'm saying. It has to be weighed out.
And it's not proper evidence to base a decision on a zoning application on, because zoning applications don't turn on what is the status of the schools at the time as far as classroom size and everything. So if this problem's fixed in 5 years, then this application will get approved because, that's worked itself out. I mean, that's not, and there's extensive case law on that, and I'm happy to submit it. That is not a proper basis for analyzing the application. This is zoned MFR for this density, and that is what we are proposing within the confines of the regulations. And we ask for the information. I understand that the commission, takes it seriously, obviously, and that's why we've had Stan come in and provide that report. But I just don't think that's a proper basis for judging this application.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, Chris, for you.
Yeah.
I asked for a road safety audit from Turkey Roost to Hammertown Road. Did you do that?
That was for, you requested that of,
No, I just requested that from you guys.
No, we had looked at that. That was for your traffic engine. Because it's,
Well, I mean,
we don't come out of the definition of audit because you can't audit yourself, but audit has to be done by your third party.
so
that would be
so we didn't bother doing any of that yet, right?
I don't know if the town's consultant did it.
I do not believe so. I believe we discussed this though, and I can't remember the reasoning why we had said, and Michael Dion is going to.
Sure, Mike Dion with BL Companies. We did discuss it, about doing a road safety audit. Typically, you do a road safety audit if there's a known problem that you're looking to address. They're typically done, as they said, by an independent review team. You'd have traffic engineers out there, you'd have roadway engineers, highway engineers, you'd have the town engineers. If it's state road, you'd have the state involved, you'd have stakeholders involved. Typically, it's about a $30,000 effort. And you're trying to, typically what you're doing is you're looking for ways to fix problems you have. I think if you do a road safety audit, I think the question comes in. You end up identifying problems that are there, and now you have to fix them.
Well, the only reason why I say that is because the accidents that have been on Turkey Roost, okay, have all been tree related, pole related, stuff like that. So it must be a narrow road.
Yes.
All right. So that's the reason why I asked for a road safety study, because you're going to add, like he says, more traffic to that road.
Roughly 200 cars.
And the applicant,
100 cars a day to that road. And then I got other questions to ask him, but that's the reason why I asked for that.
And Commissioner, one of the things that I know is that the accidents on Turkey Roost Road don't rise to the typical level where there would be that small. It's usually something where there's a lot.
Wait a minute, wait.
But it's usually something where there's a lot more accidents.
I got that.
Yes.
Well, now we're getting on to the next section. Now you came up with, I don't know, 4 accidents on Turkey Roost since 2021 to 2024, within 3 years. Those are what is on here from Keith. But you never mentioned anything about Fan Hill Road. Nothing on Fan Hill Road. And believe me, I drive Fan Hill Road every day. And there's accidents on Turkey Roost and Fan Hill all the time. I see them there constantly. So that number is flawed, because I'll tell you right now, you did not mention anything on Turkey Roost, because I travel that road. It's on my business. On Fan Hill and Turkey Roost. Has any of that been?
I mean, Fan Hill's a mile away, I think, from right?
Yeah,
It's a
well-
mile away from the development.
No. You're adding traffic onto Turkey Roost that has to get out across Fan Hill, okay? So you're not looking at Fan Hill and Turkey Roost, the amount of volume that you're gonna put on that road?
And I have not seen, I'm trying to think of an application where I've analyzed an intersection that,
Commissioner, we have recorded 8 accidents within the last 5 years at the intersection of Fan Hill and Turkey Roost Road. 7 of those were property damage only. 4 of them were angle accidents. 1 was a head-on that caused a suspicious minor accident, minor injury.
You're saying that there's only been how many? 8.
8
The last-
in the last 5 years.
When you study, when was the last time you did that data? From what years?
We take the data.
What years did you do that?
The data is from 5 years, starting January 1st, 2018 to August 30th, 2023.
I've seen more than that.
I see it a lot, in fact. But I'm just saying to you, it's like, I don't know, I mean, I'd have to check that with the chief. But.
If you talk to the.
I'm saying like.
They have much lower numbers.
All right, let's move on to the next thing.
The Turkey Rooster.
Are they counting?
Turkey Roost. And then probably Elm, part of Elm, but
Because Elm.
branches
Yeah,
off from
that's
there.
stupid track.
You get people that cut off from Turkey Roost that people can't see from there and that the road coming down. Because if you're taking on Turkey Roost, there's a sightline problem on between Elm Street and Fan Hill, okay? Because the road branches together.
Yeah.
As you add more traffic that comes out of Turkey Roost that makes a right-hand turn, people look over, they don't see it, they start to go, and the people turn on from Turkey Roost and go straight in and broadside them on the. That happens there all the time.
Yeah, I was just there at 6 o'clock today. I just passed by Turkey
Right,
Roost.
and so it's a dangerous road, and for him, like, for somebody to come up here and say, well, you know, you're looking at this, or should you look at that road? You're adding traffic to Turkey Roost that is also going to add traffic to Fan Hill, and it's gonna create a problem on Elm Street. It's gonna create problems there. It's not gonna, that's not going to, it's going to add volume to that road. And there's no doubt about that, that could turn out to be a safety concern, in my opinion. So let's move on to the next. So, all right, what about, how much material are we gonna like blast, or how much do you have to volume over there?
Jason Edwards for the record, there's an exhibit I provided that gives you the total volume.
What's the volume? I don't
It's like
know.
110,000.
110,000 yards. And a crushing that on the property?
Some will be crushed, some will be, crushed at different sizes, spread around, yes. We're gonna be
So
processing.
you're looking for a crushing permit.
It would be included with our special exception permit, yeah, I don't think it's a special permit, it's on top of it.
Well, that's something that we're gonna have to go over about that crushing permit. But you're gonna leave this, you're gonna leave this open, right?
Yes, yeah, it's all like,
All right, then, so you say you have monitoring wells on the property?
there's, I think they're still there, right?
Yeah.
There's monitoring wells in there.
The water there?
We do it for groundwater for the DEP septic design, so we don't do lead contamination or anything, but
Then he had asked you to, if you have some samples, maybe because of the history of the property, because he only did a phase 1. He never did a phase 2 or anything like that, so you wouldn't know if there was any contamination there or not. Maybe we should test the water. I mean, just from.
I'll talk to the applicant and see if he's willing.
I mean, would he
test
want to test
the
the
water, the wells that we have there now, I'll ask him.
If he doesn't want to do it, he'll not do it. The other thing I got a question. Well, no, because he's saying he doesn't know if he wants to do it or not. But that's, but I can't require them to do that. But anyway, so, on the septic system, everything feeds to the septic system, right?
Treatment plant.
Treatment. So what kind of safety measures do you have there? What if a pump goes bad? Do you have an,
There's backup pumps on the shelf in the building. They make us actually have backup pumps on site. That's one of the DEP requirements for the main pumps.
I got all
backups.
I got
We
that.
notified.
It would be notified, yeah, there's a system.
What if you have a major,
Yeah, they alternate too, so there's backup pumps that alternate, and so they.
they change them out or they're all hooked up
No,
together? There's like
There's some that are in place that are alternating, so they're not.
alternating pumps. So you have a design to that. Well, anyway, you have
Yeah,
to.
they're all designed.
Okay.
By the DEP.
How much storage can you hold before there's a problem?
So
I think I asked you that
well,
because you're going to be pumping the system. You got to pump it out to leaching fields. If for some reason power goes down, the generator don't work, how much storage do you have? Capacity.
I'll have to, it depends on which phase of the system we're in. So you've got storage tanks that are there and I have to.
You don't know what the
I
capacity.
don't have it on me right now. I have
So
it.
you don't know, but well, you'll be able to predict the volume of what each house does, right? You have an
Yeah,
average
have
of
it.
that, right?
DEP approves this, so.
I know, I understand that, but I want to know the capacity of what before you have a problem and how many days before you turn out to have a problem. Did you give us any of that?
I did. I gave you the generators and there's also septic
Or
tanks.
generators, I want to know what's the capacity to hold, contain the system before it leaks out to somewhere else into
So
the.
where are you talking all the piping all the way back up to, or are you?
Whatever it ends up in the bottom there at the treatment plant. There's got to be some kind of storage facility.
There's
hold
tanks there.
a certain amount.
Plans I can pull out for you if you want.
You know what that amount
I
is?
don't know it off the top of my head.
Okay, can you find that out for me?
Yes.
Let me know. And the other thing I had is and Ryan went on this, is that you take an analysis of what school system kids will come up with 70. But when you have a highly rated school system, the volume of school children is going to be much more. I mean, you're putting in 4-bedroom homes. And so where you come up with that data, I mean, do you come up with a data where it rates the school system and how many school children will be into that? Or is it just a average kind of data?
Do you take into account the quality of the school system and how?
Yeah, and if,
Right, am I right on that?
Exactly right.
yeah, if I go back, I could produce it for you, but the school systems are rated. And the main thing to look at is the graduation rate. Okay, college placement. And in this area, all the school systems are very close. You're near the top.
Right.
Okay, the difference between the top and the 15th is sometimes hundredths of a point difference in the ratings of the different school systems.
Right.
So the things that people look at, the school system, lifestyle, and the type of community that it is,
No, and I have, and I know that. I'm saying when you came up with your data.
Yeah.
Does your data also incorporate the rating of the school system? Like, it's not like you take the data out of all Fairfield County. But it doesn't take into consideration the rating of the school system for each individual town, does it? No.
But what I've done in the past, and I could do it for you for the next meeting, is a comparison of the surrounding towns, the 5 surrounding towns, and what the school ratings are compared to yours, and you can see that they're all very, very close. The tiebreaker, if the school systems are good, then it's the lifestyle, the image, the psychographics that go along with living in that community. That's what happens.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
I got one more question, Chris.
I just wanted to point out one thing. You keep on talking about the number of children, but if we had the 70 school-age children, look at the project that's phased in. That's about 12 students a year that would be added to the system. At 70, if I get up closer to the 90, it's about 15 students a year get into the school system. So it's not all 70 or 90, whatever number you want to use. It's not a dump into the school system today.
No, and I understand that. But I'm saying to you, it's like, because when you come up with the numbers and you come up with the amount that you're going to get for the house and for the taxes and all that kind of stuff, when you change the number by 20 or 30, it changes the back end of it. You understand what I'm saying? So it doesn't just when you come up with this number, it just doesn't, when your analysis comes out, you're going by one number. That doesn't mean that that number is going to be there.
Oh, like I said, you gotta use the word about.
Right, I understand that, but I'm saying to you is the reason why I asked you that question was, is it done by what the rating of the school system is? And it's not. It's done by, like you said, it's done by a whole area.
I could do the separate, I could bifurcate out the rating in school.
All right, that's all I need. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want Stan to say that to Commissioner Condon's comment about that these students are getting phased, and they phased in projection.
Okay, this is for you. Okay, so the attorney brought up about 1.93, which, I mean, some of the stuff you have changed, and you brought some other stuff in here on Friday. I think that's ridiculous that you get just this stuff all brought in there on a Friday.
Well, I mean,
I'm just saying.
So that's why we immediately said.
Understand that.
It's fine for.
We're gonna have to go all back through this all again. We should have just, at one time, you should have just said, well, we're not ready yet. Let's go on and move it on to the next meeting. But we gotta go over all this stuff you just dropped off again, and then come back here and do the same thing all over again. I don't think that's like the right way to do this. I mean, you don't bring stuff in on a Friday, 2 days before the meeting. Doesn't work. I just want to lay that out to you that I you know what I mean? And so it doesn't work that way because this commission cannot overlook this stuff in one day. All right, we even got it tonight. We didn't even get it. We
We didn't expect you. That's why.
But I'm saying to you at that point, you should request to continue this meeting or something because this is ridiculous. And I don't want to do this anymore like this. I mean, everything just thrown here a day before, that doesn't work. Okay, now, the attorney brought up about the 1.93 regulation states that split zone, each portion of the lot has to conform with the zoning regulation where that portion of the lot is situated. So your leaching fields are on another lot.
But
They're not in that, no.
well, they're not on another lot. They're in another zone, or a portion of it's in another zone.
It's in another zone. So it's in a different zone. It's not in the same zone. It's not in the MFR zone. It's in the RF zone.
Right, but what I think that regulation is stating is, so for instance, like the open space calculation, we provide way more open space beyond what's in the MFR district. But we made sure for the MFR district, that area, we had 50% for open space. We made that calculation, and that's just for the MFR. We have tons beyond that, but we made sure in each district that we were conforming to the standards that you had.
So
like the 70 acres is 70 acres in the.
I mean, I got to look into this a little bit further because so our regulations, you have to have a septic system, you have to have the leaching fields.
Right.
There's a part to put the leaching fields, there's a plot plan and all that kind of stuff, right? I got that. So in your MFR, you are allowed to do that. But now you're losing your leaching fields to put on another piece of, on a residential piece of property. That's a different entity.
Why, I think you have a regulation that's specifically to that. And it says if it was non-residential to residential, that's one thing, but this is all residential.
I think you're.
And this was, it was approved prior.
Listen, that doesn't mean it was approved right. Okay, so I'm just telling you that, right? It's just a different application. When people start coming back to me and say, well, this was already approved. This was done before. This is the way it was before. This is a new application. This is brand new. Can't use the old application and then go back and say, oh, it was like that before. No, this is totally different. Regulations change, zones change, everything changed.
But there's a uniform application of the zoning regulations. And that does carry. And that is how that has been interpreted. And it's been interpreted that way previously and it hasn't changed. And so to now say, no, that's not allowed, it's a different interpretation. It's not a uniform interpretation, in my opinion, of how this, of these regulations.
That's your opinion, right?
Well, yeah.
The attorney has a different opinion. So, all right, we'll move on from there. But we'll go when you come back, we'll go.
Thank you.
Yeah, you done? Yep.
Robert.
All right, some of what I have is redundant, but I'll just give you my perspective as one commissioner here. Some concerns, some thoughts and questions here. Obviously, the first concern is, whether or not Turkey Roost can handle the additional traffic from the additional housing and the lengthy construction project. Should this road be potentially fortified before we begin construction and or redesigned? I think that some of the data is, although it may be correct, I don't think it's actual because this is reported accidents. I had a friend of mine that lived on that road and he had lived in a blind area of one of the hairpin turns. And it was routine to have somebody in his front yard. Whether it was distracted driving or drunk driving or whatever was going on, or it was slippery. People are going too fast. People were skidding off the road. They were going off embankments. People were coming back with their truck, pulling them back onto the road. These were incidents that weren't reported. Obviously, if somebody gets hurt, usually that's reported. There were a lot of incidents that weren't reported because of that situation. So that's a definite concern of mine as far as the safety of the road. Also, the negative fiscal impact potentially of the additional school-age children. Again, those reports, I don't know that those are necessarily accurate. We would never know until they build those out, just based on what we have going on in the town now. It could, prompt a redistricting of schools and or an opening of another school at that point. Now, as far as the septic treatment center, the plant, that's going to be down next to Smith Pond, correct?
Not Jason Edwardsburg. It's not that close to it, but it's down near where the.
Down at the beginning of the property when you're coming in?
No, it's up at the top of the axis, really where it widens out.
Okay.
So where it's out of the review area of the wetland and everything.
Is it visible from Turkey Roost?
No.
It's not. So it's up above.
It's up on the top, the bottom of the top.
Yeah, I got you. Yep. And I also was concerned with Commissioner Ambrosi also with the amount of storage, because you're going to generate a lot of water, a lot of sewage with that many homes. And I want to know, how much downtime is going to be allowed. Just having firsthand experience with municipal treatment plants, they run into this situation all the time where they either are undersized because they haven't been upgraded, or they have tremendous amount of additional water from storms or other types of incidents. And what happens when they fail is it just simply overspills. It overspills into whatever the nearest waterway is. In our case, usually the Long Island Sound. Happens all the time. There's high bacteria levels and it's a real problem. And if this water is getting down to Smith Pond, I live down the line from the waterway, I'm going to be concerned about that, because that can happen, and it usually does happen at one point or another. Whether, it doesn't matter how many pumps you have on hand. I understand they alternate, so when one of them's down, that's all good fail safes, but inevitably there is a situation where it can spill over and get into the waterway, and that's concerning. Getting on to the affordable housing discussion, Mr. Russo had several talking points that are all legitimate as far as our regulations are concerned. We're dealing with a kind of a different set of rules here as we're trying to increase our ratio of affordable housing per Hartford and per our POCD. So we're a little bit concerned. We're trying to follow our POCD, do the right thing by the town and also by Hartford, and we don't want to lose any potential grants or anything like that by not showing an increase in percentages as that goes on. Commissioner Mayani mentioned this will actually set us back a bit because there's going to be additional housing. So the ratio is going to go against us. And I completely agree with what you're saying. It may not be the right thing for the potential homeowner, but that's not what Hartford thinks. They have different views and they kind of got a one size fit all policy when it comes to that. So that's where I think we are on the affordable housing. And now getting on to the children, the 70 children. Just one actual example here. I know you could look at reports and we could look at the type of schools and everything else. I live on a dead end road that has very similar sized homes and similar valued homes. There's 4 homes at the end of the road, 10 children. 4 homes, 10 children. Now, if you just use an actual multiplier, I didn't cherry pick, this is where I live. If you use that multiplier, that equals 250 kids. Now, is that going to reflect exactly what's going to be in there? Probably not. But I'll tell you what, it's not 70. It's not even close to 70. So, being in my neighborhood where people move, they raise their children, they move out as soon as the children are of age. I find it hard to believe that you're going to shop for a 4-bedroom home without children or without school age kids. And as far as the 8% of the kids that go to public school, is that number or private school, is that number factoring in municipally funded private school. They may go to private school, but the municipalities may be funding it.
No, just like Fairfield prep schools like that. Yeah, just private.
Private schools aren't always paid for by the residents. A lot of times the towns are paying for the private schools for special needs.
Private school, just private, it's just private schools that are. And
Not municipal.
Yeah, non-municipal related.
Stand.
And obviously the special needs sector has got to be addressed too. That's tough, you know, as far as trying to, you know, kind of quantify a number to that because you just don't know. That changes year to year, but that is definitely an outlier that's going to skew or affect these numbers. And I think that is all I have. All you. You good?
All right. I have a few questions. Before I do, I just kind of want to address just the general feeling I'm having about this application. I keep hearing a lot of, you already proved this, you did this, we did this. We're allowed to ask questions up here. Our job is to guide orderly development of our town, the land, how we use our land, housing, to stabilize property tax, and to protect our open space. This application impacts the residents of our town. It has financial implications, and we are mandated by our fellow residents to ask questions about this project. It impacts more than how many kids are in a school or a particular project. This project is going to cost this town money because the thin line of what I'm hearing we're going to make off this project keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And at the end of the day, we're paying that in property taxes, not you, not your developer, not your client. So I take offense to us being questioned as to why we're asking questions that we are asking. Now I'll ask my questions. Question about, well, thank you, Jason, for clarifying the blasting question. There you are. I appreciate that. Piggybacking, traffic guy, Stan. Piggybacking off Leon, I do want to know more specifically, were those car accidents considered on Turkey Roost because that's where the car landed? Or if the car landed on Elm Street and that's where the accident was considered, even though the car was hit coming off Turkey Roost? I would like more clarification on that because like Leon, I drive my kid to school every day and I witnessed at least 2 accidents last year that I called 911 on because somebody got T-boned coming off Turkey Roost trying to get out in the morning. That was my only question, I think, for traffic, but I hold the right to call you back. Financial guy. Where is our population since 2019? I saw a lot of numbers up there, but it kind of ended at 2019. And I know there's been a lot of people coming in since the pandemic.
Yeah, that's a good question. In the original report, there's data that goes back. When COVID occurred, I think I get the year right. There was January 2020 to March 31st, 2020 or 2020. I got to check the year. It's either 2020, but there was 16,000 households that moved into Fairfield County. Okay. A lot of people have moved back. Some of them spread out across the state, but a lot of people have stayed. That's what basically happened. They found out the lifestyle here is pretty nice.
Yeah.
And you want to know what the population trend is? Is what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just take a quick look here. So I might have it here. If not, I could run the report for you and get it for you for the next meeting. But I ran. See my demographic and profile. Here we go. Now that's the old one. So, hold on. So here's what I'm going. 2010, your population was 19,479.
Okay.
Okay. In 2020, it was 18,825.
Okay.
2023 is 18,543, and it's projected for 2028 to be 18,105.
Okay.
About,
Thank you.
yeah.
One more question for you. The study that you said that 30% of houses will have, only 30% of houses based on the national study will have school-age children. And you were saying something along the lines of, the more expensive the house, the less children they'll have. So for that study that says 30% will have school-age children, what size houses did they determine that off of?
They just did it by, first of all, it's about that number, it's not exact, okay? Number two, they did it as an average for all housing types. And it was specifically related to first-time home buyers.
Okay.
First-time home buyers. And that's the National Association of Realtors study.
Is there any studies that can tell us how many first-time home buyers that don't have kids are buying these $900, $800, $700,000 houses? That's just
That's
hard
part
for
of
me
the
to
National
imagine.
Association report.
Okay.
Look, 30% is about the number, okay? I think Monroe, one of the studies I looked at, 40% of your housing is 4-bedroom units, okay? It could be higher.
Okay.
Right? I'm not going to deny that. It could be higher. But I think there's going to be an impact from the lifestyle change. And that's what basically happens looking at the data that's out there. And you can see the numbers I just read off to you about the population decline for Monroe. That's from the U.S. Census Bureau, and then projected the forecast that's from Esri, what their demographers doing. If you look at Claritas, which is the competitor, it's about the same.
Does it ever show what age group, I know it's trending down, but is there any way to know the age group? These are older parents and moving out and then being replaced with younger kids? That's what I'm seeing personally, but.
Well, I'm seeing the kids moving out and then the parents moving in. It's one of the things that I see.
Okay.
Yeah, because they can't afford to go into.
Some of that, okay.
Yeah.
Hold on, before I make you go sit down.
And the other thing is, you have to look at generational, okay? So we're dealing with millennials, Gen Z, and Gen X. That's who you're building these houses for going forward. And that, one of the slides I had put up there, millennials, Gen Z, and Gen X are the ones with 15.5%, about 16%, that are moving back home with their parents until they get to the point to buy a house. And when they buy a house, they buy a house. And it's the type of project that's proposed here. Because what are millennials used to? Well, they're used to living in an apartment. If they have something go wrong with the refrigerator or anything, they call the owner. They don't want to cut the grass. They don't want to plow the sidewalks. That's why this project is in demand, is because it meets the criteria of those people we buy. They'll buy and take care of the house, but they don't want to cut the grass. They don't want to plow the streets. They don't want to do the driveway. So that's basically.
That makes sense. I just want to also, I know Rob mentioned his neighborhood too. And I know what the studies show, but just realistically in town, I live in a house with a street of 10 houses, all between 2,000 and 3,000 square feet. We have 16 kids, which is all school aged, which is 1.77 kids per house. So I know national numbers say that, but in Monroe, the numbers don't seem to be adding up when we're looking at real.
If you look at my report, there's data there that shows what the average is for Monroe.
Yeah.
And there's outliers that are there.
Right.
Maybe a street where there being no school children.
Well, right. So down where I grew up I did my mom's street too. She has 7 houses, much smaller houses, 1 kid. So the bigger houses are attracting more children. That's just what's happening in Monroe right now. I know down the road, we don't know what's going to happen. And then I just agree with Dominic. I really want soil testing done now that I have heard some of what he shared.
The what?
Soil testing, not your area.
I'm done.
You're done.
Yeah, very much.
Growing up with the people I know on Turkey Roost, now you said some of those things, it brings that back. And for the safety of the residents in the area, and if this goes through, I would like those testing done as well. And I am done.
Commissioner, I'll just for the record say, we'll stay here till 3 a.m. and answer.
No, we won't.
I mean,
No, we won't.
If you want to stay here, then fine.
2 children. We're not staying till 3.
All these guys, we will stay till 3. We'll answer.
Too many kids.
And I've been before this commission a lot. Any question, we will do our best endeavor to answer that. The reason I'm bringing up some of the past is because this site was zoned for MFR. It was zoned for this type of development. And the regulations were created to allow this level of development. And that's, it's not like there's a regulation that exists now that only allows 20 units here. And we're coming to you with the text change to a text change to allow 99. That is already in place. And that's why I'm stressed, but.
I do have one more question. Sorry, I lied. For Jay. I know you mentioned the schools said that they'll send the buses down for up to 8th grade. They mentioned the high school age kids.
We don't have any direct conservation, but I think it was not the high school kids.
So will there be a sidewalk going down to the street or somewhere for them to stand down there safely, waiting for the bus?
I don't know.
Okay. Okay.
Their contract with the busing company provides that the superintendent, they negotiate for.
Yeah, they negotiate.
For even the high school kids?
If they want.
Okay, all right. That's all. Now I'm done, I promise. Call me to go.
I know they go.
I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Can we just clarify? So what do you want? Do you want them to do any more research related to the sidewalk to review it? And I asked that because that was an original comment in my P&Z memo. The issue is widening the road to include the sidewalk may require them to go back to inland wetlands.
Right.
It requires a bunch of other things. So that's why I just want to be very clear.
I would like, it's just me speaking, I would like the sidewalk to go down in the event something changes with the school district and they don't have the buses go in there and we have kids standing on the edge of Turkey Roost waiting for a bus. I don't know what everyone else thinks.
Bring the bus up the driveway.
I
agree. Bring the bus up the driveway. If the bus comes up the road, that problem's not there.
If the Board of Ed continues to allow that. I'm just saying down the road in 10, 20 years, we don't know if the Board of Ed is going to change that policy.
My turn?
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Bruno's turn.
My turn? All right. I'm not gonna harp on the affordable too much, but it's definitely something I would hope you guys would consider. And I know why you don't want to consider it, right? The contractor makes less money. It's a lesser house, lesser money. I get it. So.
Should be the same house.
But it's not gonna be the same house.
Well,
Doesn't know.
Can I just speak on that for a second, Dave Benishis?
I didn't even finish, but go ahead.
It's not a lesser house. It can't be a lesser house. If you're doing affordable, it has to be the same house.
Yeah, okay.
So
it's less money.
Well, you're building a $800,000 house. You have to sell it for $180,000.
That's not true at all.
Well, but you have to sell it for.
That's not true at all.
But
That could be one of the falsest statements I've heard on.
no, but.
Because you're not selling that house at 180. That's not true at all.
But when
You're selling it
at affordable, whatever the.
affordable for the town of Monroe,
Right.
which is not 180.
Just using it as an example.
He was not using it as an example.
But that,
Because you would not make $1 on it. You would actually lose money.
well, you do lose money on the affordable, but I think what
You
the
don't.
main point you're trying to say is that you cannot lower the grade of house if it's affordable.
Sure. I think it's something that should be considered. I think there's a lot of things that, I think there's a lot of good that comes with it. I think there's some potential bad that comes with it. Of course, just like anything else, just like this project, there's probably going to be, your next Michael Jordan's going to come out of this project. Or maybe your next Danica Patrick going driving NASCARs around in the nice little circle there. There's potential, right? There's always potential for greatness to come out of these things. And there's always potential for something bad. Now, a person like me, I'm a positive guy. I like the positive. I think that every house is going to be perfect. I think every family that goes in there is going to be perfect, right? Because I like that. I like that mindset, right? So being said, I still think you guys should go with some affordable housing. It helps the town, okay, with some of the stuff with Hartford and some of our funding and grants and all that kind of stuff, which is very important if you truly care about the town, which is very important for us. Okay? That's where I'm gonna leave that, because we're gonna discuss that more later. Now, can I see the house? Can you show me a house? Any one of them, anyone.
Yes.
Show me the floor plan, please.
Floor plan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Floor plan. Sorry.
The actual floor plan.
That's only an outline.
Or give me the outline, that's fine. Can you expand that?
These are only hypotheticals though, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So, perfect example. You have a bedroom next to a study. Yeah, we are. Here we go. You have a bedroom next to a study, and what's right next to the study? A bathroom. Right?
I think it says pantry.
It's a pantry.
Pantry? Can't see that far. And that's not a bathroom right there?
There's a bathroom, but it's a half bath.
Half bath.
Yeah. That's downstairs bath.
Okay. Now, you're saying there are 4 bedrooms. There is and can be an opportunity, I'm not saying it's gonna happen, because in my world, it doesn't happen. There is an opportunity for someone to stay in the study. There is.
Somebody in the study or?
There's an opportunity for someone to stay in the study.
I guess technically someone could live in anywhere.
Correct. Correct, but a study of that size, it looks like it's actually bigger than the bedroom.
You have to go out to the pantry to get there.
Correct. Correct, it could be like the hidden room
Yeah, there's only one entrance to that room.
through a pantry.
Just for clarification for this commission, because I do know this gets brought up. There's 2 different items. What is considered a bathroom by different departments, health department, zoning, building, which all relates to different codes, and the perception of logic, ration, and reason of if someone could actually fit a bed in there and stay there. And so I just want to make it clear, sometimes I think we're talking about 2 different things. So from a health department perspective, it needs to have a closet and an access to a full bathroom and things of that nature in order for it to be considered a bedroom. That would then trigger the need for a septic system to be sized in order for it to accommodate that. From a building department perspective, they care about if there's a closet and storage and there's a certain requirement dimensionally in order for them to consider something a bedroom. From our perspective, for it to be considered an accessory dwelling, we have a zoning requirement associated with it. So just as a reminder that they will have to go through review by all the different departments to see if it can be a bedroom for their requirements. And I do understand, though, that you are talking about it as it relates to logically, can someone put a bed in there and potentially use it as a bedroom? But just a friendly reminder to the public that we do go through a review process on our own related to making sure it meets the requirements for a bedroom.
And we have a gallonage max.
Yes,
DEP has a gallonage max.
That's going out of it.
And Chair, that could go the other way too, though. So if somebody could buy this house, and it's a 4-bedroom house, and you go look at the primary bedroom, well, I want it to be a movie room. I mean, that somebody could also decide not to use all the bedrooms.
Sure.
There's somebody could just be.
I think you have a better leg to stand on with it already being 4 bedrooms than someone adding that as a potential bedroom, right? Because a 5-bedroom house, it's a lot. It's a lot, right? If this was a 3-bedroom or a 2-bedroom and you had that study, you have a better chance of that room turning into a potential bedroom down the road, right?
Not legally.
Not legally, but I'm sure there's a couple houses in town.
I'm not saying there is. I'm not arguing.
I'm just saying.
Maybe we got all.
So I would just say, if you guys get to this point with the floor plan, let's look into that, just so that that question doesn't constantly get brought up on every application. Now, I know we had an issue, a potential issue with the fire trucks. You guys are confident with the width of the roads and all that kind of stuff that you fixed all that?
There was nothing to fix. We just demonstrated that.
You just demonstrated that's a fix, because we had a question and fixed it.
Yeah. Okay.
Fixed the question, answered the question. Beautiful. Well done. I'm I'm glad I got to go last because there were some wonderful questions asked by each and every commissioner. And I think Nicole said it best where at the end of the day, like we were voted in by the public and we have a job to do. And if our questions are redundant, so be it. We just want to make sure that at the end of the day, whatever happens here is in the best interest of everyone. It's the best interest for the contractor, best interest for the town. Everything has to work hand in hand. It cannot be one way, right? We can't just say no because it doesn't benefit us. You guys can't just, oh, I'm going to do this because I want to. It has to be a team effort between contractor and town. So it benefits everyone. And we want whatever children go there to benefit from our schools. And that's another thing. Those numbers are low because we service, and I'm just stopped myself from swearing. We service these kids so well in this school, so well. And you definitely have people coming from out of town with kids with special needs. And Monroe does an amazing job servicing special needs children. Amazing, better than any town that I could ever ask to be a part of. They really go out of their way. So when we question you with that number, it's because we all have children that have gone through here, except for Ryan. Ryan's a young buck, man. He's got plenty of time. Plenty of time.
One of those millennials.
He's a millennial. So when we talk about that stuff, it comes from a passion point, honestly, because it's done so many wonderful things for my daughter. Now my son going through the system, and I see what it does for the other people who are up here and what their kids have turned out to be. And a lot of that is generated by the wonderful teachers. And so when we question that number, it's because we know that people want to be in Monroe. Surely not for the nightlife, because there's none here. Every restaurant closes at 9. So by all means, they were closed an hour and a half ago. So they are here for the schools. That is our number one draw. I mean, we are a nice community too. We have very nice people in this town. Crime rate's low, but the schools is the driving force. With that said, I am not going to ask any more questions. Do you have anything else to say before I take a 5-minute recess?
Chair,
Everybody can go to the bathroom.
I have a family member who has had the benefit of that here in Monroe as well. So I'm not trying to minimize it either. And what I will say is I think that Stan's took that into account. And he's going to provide more information to that effect. And also, I don't know if there was a question. I don't think I responded to any question that was redundant, but any question you have, we are happy to.
Awesome. 10:33, we're going to take a 5-minute break. 10:39, we're back in session. One thing did come to mind while I was on tour. Come on, buddy. Where's Mr. Edwards?
All right, that's fine.
You guys can both hang out up there, it's fine.
Did recording start?
So, stopped. So, there was a project in town on the Route 25 side. And they told us that the buses would not be allowed to go into it. So what precautions will you take if somehow, some way, the buses do not go into the property?
Well, then that's, I mean, that now we're letting they will based on that usually the side of the contract with the bus company and state.
I know, but they wouldn't let the bus company.
They didn't have safe conditions for the bus to travel on that site.
And that was a mixed use development.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying, what precautions?
Well, staff is happy to contact the superintendent on behalf of the commission to get information from them directly as compared to through an applicant. And we're happy to submit that information to the commission to help you make it.
I do agree that this is a lot more feasible to go through. The bus.
That had no place, I think.
But I don't know if the bus company just all of a sudden says, well, no, we're not doing that anymore, which I don't know if they can. I don't know.
And I handled that application and I didn't know at the time that they were going into grade out. Actually, I texted my brother and I was like, dude, they picked the kids up. He said, yeah. And so and then we went and we explored it and they do. So I didn't know that when we did the Main Street.
Okay. I'm just saying if after Kathleen calls Mr. Cobb's and all that kind of stuff, and if they for some reason decide not to, we need some sort of plan to figure out where the kids would go. All right, awesome. So that's it for the commissioners. Let's take it to the public.
If you don't mind, before we start the public, I just want to clarify what
By all
we
means.
talked about for our bylaws. The commission shall not begin a new agenda item after 11 p.m. unless facing application deadlines or similar time constraints as defined by the Connecticut state statutes or upon majority approval by its members. So this is the continuation of just an agenda item. So we are happy to go past.
So 3 a.m. like Mr. Russo wants. What we will do with the public is, we'll have them ask all their questions. And then if you choose to address them, by all means, at the very end, we'll do that. We will start with anybody in person has a question, concern. Come on up. Name and address for the record, please.
Frank McPhail, 59.
I'm sorry, can you just wait?
Into the microphone.
Pick you up.
59 Turkey Roost Road.
Thank you.
It's late, so I'm going to try and be brief. My phone's dead. I don't want to break this out and make this keep here any longer, but there are a couple things I just wanted to go over. So Commissioner Ambrosi, I thought at the last meeting had mentioned that the town was going to do its own independent traffic study, safety study. And it sounds like town had just a peer review of the existing traffic study. I don't want to spend the town's money, but I thought we were going to do something independent of the petitioner or the applicant and their traffic study. One of the things I would like to just point out is that the peer review, it goes over, the high times of frequency of travel, the loads, the low points, the number of cars. But I live on the left side. Turn into Turkey Roost from Fan Hill, I live on the left side of the road. So I'm at a pretty level elevation. All the houses on the right side are elevated. They have steep driveways, they have curving driveways, blind driveways. Most of them, at least I hope most of them have blind spot mirrors. You can't pull in and out, you can't back out, without, it gets really dicey, especially during high traffic times. You're adding, again, there's 75 to 80 houses on Turkey Roost. We're adding 99 more just to that road. And we're more than doubling the traffic. You can't tell me that, for someone who lives on the right side at an elevated with a pitched driveway, a sloped driveway, that this is not going to have an impact on their ability to get in and out, the traffic in general. It's gonna, and I take issue with the peer review because I just don't think it addresses that. I think an independent traffic study or a safety study is more appropriate. Regarding the financial or reality concepts reports, and I'll put this out there, I'm not an expert in the school budget. I've not gone to any Board of Education meetings, but I've looked at RKG's statistics here, and they have, for the 2021-2022 year, they had the school budget at 58, almost 59 million. And they had the cost per student at 18,449 per student. Then they do, I assume this is the 2022-2023 calendar year. The budget was 62, almost 63 million. The average cost per student went up by $65. It went up to 18,515. We're not using the 2023-24 budget. We're not using the cost per student for this current year. With inflation, other expenses, to me, this number, and like I said, I'm not experienced with the school budget. Maybe there are different ways that they calculate the per student cost. But if the budget increases by 4 million from one year to the next, one would just think inflation, that the cost per student is going to have a more dramatic increase than just $65 per student. So the 18,515 figure that they're using to calculate the true cost of the town for these students, whether you use 70, whether you use 106, would seem to be light. I would think the number would probably be closer to 20,000 per student, but I would just have to defer, I guess, to our superintendent on that information. Perhaps that can be maybe looked into and verified, because if it's 20,000, the cost is now going to be 240,000 more for 106 students. And that's going to, put us further in the red as far as the cost to town. Lastly, I would ask, regarding the valuation of these new units. Did we get any comps? Are there any comps from the town of Monroe, from sales in the town of Monroe for condos, for single-family condos in the town of Monroe that they can use to justify the 800,000 valuation? Because I think that number might be high for a condo. It's a single-family condo, but you don't have use of the land. You have use of the land, but you can't put a pool in, you can't put a fence up, you can't put a playground up. You're limited to what you can do because it's a common element of the association. So are there comps that show these units, would sell for 800,000? Because if they're closer to 700,000 or 650 or 725, the revenue that they're using to show that this is going to be positive for the town is going to be far less. And I think it's going to be further in the red. And that's all I've got. Sorry to take up
Thank you.
time.
Anybody else in the public? Come on up. Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, everyone. Andreas Koridis, 185 Turkey Hills Road.
Thank you.
So I have a few questions, a few comments. So I understand, the side of the developer. They want to make money, it's all good. And I also understand our side. So they're saying that the more the population grows, the more chances we have of having more, athletes, Michael Jordans, et cetera, et cetera. However, the more the population grows, the more crime we will have. We also don't forget about the impact on the school system. Also, there are a lot of assumptions on the estimates, like amount of school children that we're going to have and the property values. The other thing, they compared the number of kids in the development with Great Oak Farms, which was done in 1995, I believe. Why didn't they compare, with the Cutler's Farm, which was done 2 or 3 years ago after COVID? Also, they're saying that there's going to be a positive impact on businesses in the area. Yeah, that may be true. However, the more people move in, the more businesses we'll have, right? The more businesses will open. So they will share the revenue. So I'm not sure where the positive impact will be on businesses, which is going to have more people equals more businesses, right? There was a letter sent to the newspaper by a concerned citizen, and I'm not sure if you guys saw it. He was asking about the deep natural diversity, and that it looks like the proposed coral reef property is quite close to an area that has been identified as an area with state and federal listed species and critical habitats. So when this happens, the development needs to conduct a review, which is required by the law. I'm not sure if you guys, saw that. And I'm not sure if we have the review by deep. The other question is that I know this thing is going to be done in phases, and we're going to be listening to blastings for how long? Is that going to be? I think it's something about 8 years, and are we going to be listening to blastings for 8 years? There's a school right there. Yeah, I understand. No, right? Sorry. And it's going to be in phases, right? So it's not going to be.
No, you have to address us on.
Yeah. It's not going to be every day. I understand. But for how long are we going to be listening to blastings, and the school children? For how long are they going to be listening to blastings? Last thing, I moved here for the schools. I moved here with my family like 5 years ago. And I believe that the impact of this development will be big on the school systems, right? I heard something about temporary classrooms outside Font Hollow. Like, really? We're going to have temporary classrooms. And then the last questions. What would Monroe to become?
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the public? You can go next. Just name and address for the record, please.
Hi,
Hi, Richard Cran, 91 Turkey Roost Drive.
Thank you.
Got a concern about the drainage and possible diversion of water for our wells caused by that blasting and trench ditching, digging. In my mind, it could be a lot of sediment that's caused by that blasting and the trenching that's done, especially going by our houses. And there's a concern about our wells and the safety and the quality of our drinking water. Especially for homes like where I live, is downhill from where that trenching is going to occur. So all that's going to, presumably, the water goes downhill. The various depths of wells and pumps that could be affected with the sediment that gets churned up, possibly, due to this this construction. And I know for myself, invested quite a bit in home filtration system, well over $10,000 because of the water that's there that has to be filtered. And I don't know what's going to happen if the pump starts getting clogged or filters start getting clogged because of this construction that's occurred there. I just wanted to bring out that there's a lot of high spots that everybody's brought up and curves that lead to Smith Pond before and after. And if those are going to be taken into account during this construction, so maybe lower those where possible. And that consideration be given to the sightlines and driveways along that road. I don't know what the regulation is, if it's 150 feet or 200, but if those things can be taken in consideration when they're doing the road, it'd be appreciated. And then last on that topic is I'd like to see a full overlay myself of the road versus a trench patch when they're done with the main road, the water line being installed. The other thing is I heard things about studies on Smith Pond, but not on Wren's Pond, that's on the other side. Now they're thinking about the leaching fields are going to be just above that. And just wonder if any studies were done about the wildlife and that area that are on the other side with regard to that one. I had a question as well about the last times, if they could be timed, for example, after morning traffic and before school hours. And then as part of the blast plan, if home inspections are going to be part of that requirement to survey foundations and so they can have an idea of what the condition was before and after this blasting. And then how long the duration would be if a problem does occur to be able to report that. I don't know if there's going to be an erosion plan, control plan for this development. And if there is, I'd like to hear about that as well. And then will we be notified as far as who's going to be the point of contact if any of these problems should occur beforehand? Who do we contact and how do we know about that if something occurs due to that construction? The other thing is the water testing after or during the construction and after, if things change, if they're going to be water testing to make sure that everything is the same as before they started the construction. And I didn't hear, and I don't know if it's a requirement to fire hydrants installed with that main line on our road, with that new main line going in. And then lastly, that the management of the timeline for that road construction, as far as when that's going to be done, who's going to manage that to make sure it's done in a timely manner. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, Antonio Vespa, 116 Turkey Roost, kind of like the cat that has no hairs in his tongue. So.
Thank you.
I moved to this town as a transplant, or so they call us. We have 4 children, of which 3 of them are special needs. 2 of them are very sound sensitive. To the effect of what's been stated today about the slugs being collected on that property. I've actually flown a drone over that property to check out if there's a gun range out there. And it's very frustrating to hear the property owner to say that, I mean, he literally owns a property and just people just trespass all over the place. Not for nothing, but if somebody were to come onto my property, I would want to know who's on my property. And if he's a developer, I don't know how many people here right now live. I don't know if he lives in the township of Monroe, but it's very hard to live with the blasting and the constant gun shooting that is just going on even Sundays and holidays. You know, I mean, it stops at 9:30 in the evening. I mean, for somebody not to take responsibility for the property, it's like, what are we doing? You know, if you guys are elected officials, I think that the township and the constituency and the constituents have the right to expect from you guys to do the right thing, to fix these type of problems. Because although they seem like small problems now, they'll become bigger later on in the future when more people live in the township. I don't know where the numbers are coming from, but whatever these numbers are, wherever they're coming from, they sound like they're a racket. They sound like just numbers made up from Google, okay? I don't know if any of you guys are aware, but Bon Hollow had 265 students added on to their enrollment this year, okay? No one house was added anywhere within that district of that school. So if they're saying that they're gonna have 70 more students with 99 homes, that number is gravely skewed, you know? So there are a lot of concerns. I'm actually glad I'm not the only one who actually paid $10,000 for a water filtration system. I thought it was kind of crazy. I thought it was nuts. But yeah, I'm in the same situation. And the guy who just purchased the home next to me, well, he had a brand new well installed and my water turned to muck. Now I have tanning issues. I don't know if you guys have ever lived in a blasting area, but living with constant blasting, it's a big concern. Structural issues will happen, shifting of land will happen. The lead issue is a big problem now, a big concern. I mean, I never even thought about that part. For them to say that the testing that they've done is a stage 1 type of a test, like I guess a perk test, I don't know what type of test they do for that, but it's comical, you know? It's a big concern. Also take into account when these big buses, I don't know if you guys do a whole lot of driving for a living, these big buses come out of this subdivision or this private community, they're gonna come out to this tiny little road, okay? A road in which, well, I actually live on the upside hill from what they were talking about. So I have a blind corner. I'm actually 3-4 driveways away from that main road that they're intending to actually pull out of. And flying through there. Turkey Roost Road is not a 25-mile road. It's not. It's 45, 50 miles an hour. And forget it if you're trying to take your kids to school in the morning, because everybody's literally just flying through there. And no one is willing to stop for anyone, because let's be honest, everybody has their own selfish, egotistical ways, because it's me first. And that's exactly what it is, okay? That's the reality, all right? So I don't know what it is. Look, I'm pretty sure as an investor and for him as a developer, there's got to be a symbiotic relationship, right? That has to work. Because yeah, it could positively impact the township. It could create a larger budget for everybody to do improvements on the township, right? So there are a lot of pros and cons that can be swayed here. The one question that I do have is, would they explore the possibility of, like you're saying, creating some sort of model where there is a part that would help the township to fulfill their commitment that is supposed to be fulfilled with the state, right? For the affordable housing, right? Affordable housing, that's a joke, let's be honest. There isn't a home here that I know of that is worth maybe less than $550,000. They're gonna build a brand new home and sell it for 800 grand. Listen, this is a numbers game. This is a business. A developer telling anybody that they're gonna sell a home for $800,000, that's a joke. I mean, this is not stand-up comedy, right? They're gonna sell homes for $1 million plus. Okay, at the end of the day, everything is gonna change. Watch it and see. Mark my word, this is not gonna end up exactly how you guys are all picturing it and how they're picturing it. Okay, things are going to change, right? Don't want to take more than 5 minutes of your time, but I think that you guys should really look into this very carefully. The one question I do have is, can the road be redirected? Meaning the egress that goes into the community, can it be turned to not come out from Turkey Roost? Can it go the other way? Because there's other roads back there that maybe they can connect that come close to Font Hollow. So that's it.
Thank you so much. Anybody else in the public? Come on up. Name and address for the record, please.
56 Downs Road, Clear Freitas.
Thank you.
I introduce myself 1 minute. We came, I have two children. We came from trouble. We live over there 5 years. In 2020, we moved to here, a beautiful city over here, great school system, today. And why you move over here? Because over there, they start doing like that. They start building a lot of properties over there, and they mess it up with the school system. And my daughter, when he started school over there, was 17 kids inside the class. And when we left, over 23. And my question, how the school, if you approve this, how the school system is going to absorb all the kids come from this house? And they have a law in the back, 2.5, they sell in 2. And probably they're going to apply to start building more house. This never is going to stop. If you start approve this, it's going to be a mess.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Name and address for the record, please.
Rodney Zimmers, 24 Cobblers Hill Court.
Thank you.
No problem. I guess one of my questions is just about the numbers for a school specifically. I just look it up online, the numbers aren't 18,000, it's 20,693 per student, which is about a $2,000 difference. So when you do the tax math, it doesn't really necessarily add up. And I do live at the end of Cobblers Hill, where they talked about all the hunters and quads and all that kind of stuff. I work from home and there's only one hunter. We see our car, I assume he's a hunter who parks there. So I don't know where they're all coming from, but there is a constant gunshots going off back there. And to be honest, I don't know if it's actually from back there, just like the fishing and game thing down off Hammertown. But that's just the concern, is just the numbers being so, like, I look it up online and I come up with something entirely different pretty much instantly. And I guess that's my concern, not necessarily the idea of it. It seems so misleading from these are the numbers that we're getting here to what's being presented, like, and that's the concern, is that what's being presented won't actually happen and everything's kind of grossly understated. And for me, that's the concern, not necessarily the idea of having more kids, because it's a wonderful school district. That's why we live here. That's the asset of the town, is the schools. And I wish every kid could have access to great education. And so if there's a way to do that, that's awesome. But the numbers just don't make sense. And that's the part for me that's a little bit concerning. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Anybody else in the public? We'll go online. Julio, name and address for the record, please.
Hello, my name is Julio Choa. I live on 190 Turkey Roost Road.
Thank you.
2 kids in Font Hollow. One comment and some questions. So to start, I take issue with the statement that the town already had issues with school capacity even before this project was brought back up. While that is partially true, I think, in my opinion, the town strategy is likely gonna be very different with regards to the school when the town grows organically, when you have, onesie, twosies houses and you have a few kids coming and going, than the strategy that the town will have to adopt when it has a larger influx of kids, even when the project is happening in phases. So it's a question of, I mean, the town does have a problem, but it's a question of how it's going to be able to address it depending on the influx of kids coming in. Now to my questions. And I think I asked a question similar to this last time, but does the board have any information on how many gallons of water per hour or per day are going to be brought in, and what the water dissipation or the capacity of the land and of the systems to evacuate this water? So is it a net positive? Is it going to have excess water, and where's that water going to go? Second question, has the town looked, or can the town look for any demographic studies that show the impact of larger or largish developments like this one on the town budget beyond just the school? And the final question is whether this board has approved any developments of this size in the past, in your tenure, or whether are there any other developments of this size in your docket? Because if it's something you guys haven't dealt with or approved, you'll sound and look very capable, and you were pretty sharp with regards to your questions. But is it something that you haven't dealt with, and what kind of assistance do you need to make sure that the decisions that we're making now are really going to make sense 10, 15 years from now? That's it. Thank you very much.
Kelly, you're up. Right, Miss Kelly?
Yeah.
Kelly, I see your hand raised.
She's still on mute.
Has it? All right, is there anybody else from the public? All right, back to you guys.
Chair, what I think I'd like to do is, there's obviously a lot of comments regarding traffic in school children. I think it would be best to let the peer reviewer review our submission, because there's a lot of things that we've submitted that have ended up bearing out, as far as like the $800,000 went to the assessor, went to the appraiser, they agreed with that number. And so I think we could hone down on where there's a disagreement about it. I'd like to see their comments on our review, and then I'd come back and address it as a whole.
Okay.
But there were a couple that were other than that I just wanted to address. One, there was a sediment and erosion control plan submitted. Happy to review that with anybody in the public that was interested in it. We stated at the beginning, the blasting will be in the beginning of the development. It's not spread over the multiple phases. And
they're generally timed.
And blasting is there's a lot of regulations and requirements that are set that you have to meet with.
There'll be a lot of crushing. There will be. That's timed also.
Then I think the Colors Farm Road application is referred to as age restricted.
It is age restricted.
That's why we didn't use it as a comparison. And the hydrants are set by the fire chief. I think he said that in his comments that he would be the one who would set that. So, and other than that, the only other thing I want to state is this: my client took over a property that was a moonscape and had an illegal core use on it and was in terrible shape. And he came in there and he remediated it. which is what the town wanted to get done. So I think this developer has done right by this property and done right by the town, with what he's done with this property. So I just, is somebody saying that, you know, he's just coming in here doing whatever it was. He stood up and he remediated that property, which was a significant headache for this town. And so I want to state that. And then again, I'll just leave the response to the rest of the comments when we get to.
Kathleen, we're gonna, April 9th?
Yes, if we could, for the record, we are going to continue the meeting to
April 9th.
7 PM.
And for the record, the applicant agrees to an extension to April 9th. The only thing, and it's obvious that we would ask to have the opportunity to respond to any comments submitted.
Of course. So everybody's good with April 9th?
Yes.
Kathleen, I promise you won't have 12 meetings that week. So we will leave it open till April 9th. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Kathleen, zoning and planning matters? None? Any correspondence, commissioners report? Everyone's good? I just want to thank everybody on the commission. I know it's a Tuesday and it's a special meeting and we already meet twice and now come in an extra day, especially to someone like Kathleen who probably hasn't gotten home yet today and to spend all this extra time with us. It's 11 o'clock. It's not easy. So thank you to everyone for that. We are next Thursday.
Yes.
Next Thursday for a regular meeting. Any questions, comments, anything, anyone? Everyone's good? 11:13. Oh, sorry, motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Motion by Condon, second by Leon. 11, everyone, yay, yay. 11:13.